Phoenix Knights. Chapter 330 next up. Chapter 330 next up. Elite Coder. Bring out the box. Let's see who's the next lucky bastard. Juefan's condescending smile turned manic. The suspense is killing me. I have to get back in the game, hi. Juefan's demonic side was there for all to see, sending shivers and horrors to the faint-hearted people. Thought Juefan was using an excuse to let them go, for the bigger picture, and what not. But they all knew they had grossly overestimated him. Juefan wanted nothing more than to play a savage game and toy them to death in the process. The hatred boiling in Juefan had driven him mad for a long time now. His unorthodox method at exacting revenge had few appalled, and the rest horrified. Only those three knew of Lin Xuanfeng's true anguish and pain. The rest would be fortunate to seek out suicide than wait for Juefan to find them shaking their heads. People sighed. Messing with the 7 houses? Fine. Stomping on Regent Estate's toes? Not bad either. But may God have mercy on any who was ignorant enough to incite the wrath of Demon Archon Juefan. The end wouldn't be pretty, that was for sure. Yen Fu presented the object of interest, and Juefan smiled. He plunged his hand inside and soon came out with the lucky runner-up. Juefan looked at the number and smirked. Humph, enemies meet on a narrow road. So I'll be hunting down this lackey next. Juefan flipped the wooden piece over toward the wood exit for all to see, to none other than Xuaningxiang's killer, Yushan. Juefan's eyes flashed, and he pointed above. Whoosh! A flare rose above the clouds, exploding in a brilliant double firework. Wang Puqingtian and Yen Bangyi checked nervously, then looked at the holes on their chest, and finally relaxed. Thank God it's not me. Though they knew this safety was ephemeral with how soon Juefan let out the second flare, it went without saying that Lin Xianfeng had bit the dust. With Yushan as the second victim, who was to know how long he'd last before death would loom over them? With nerves stretched tighter than a violin, the weight was mounting the ever-present fear. They could literally feel Juefan's demon claw squeezing down on their throat. Like Juefan said, death wasn't terrifying. But dying was agony. Palpable fear was their longtime companion now, Huang Puqingtian in particular. The guy had been invincible one too many times in his life and had never experienced this side of a battle. Almost having a nervous breakdown, he had reached such a state that any loud noise was treated as Juefan sending a signal, doing nothing but pushing him further into the depths of despair. Right now, he was angry. Providence had made him king, so how could he be such a coward? He had completely ignored the precarious and erratic state his mind was currently in. Juefan's death game had him running scared, crushing any royal demeanor he ever had. In another corner of the forest, Yushan finally had the keys to the metal exit. His cheering was quite premature and disconcerting, at least when the flare exploded in the sky and fear replaced any trace of joy. Looking down at his own chest, 2 holes were there for all to see. Demon Juefan was on the hunt for him. Yushan's face fell, his fate suddenly turning on him. It was so appalling that his mind exploded in quite the colorful curses. That damn rotten Lin Xianfeng. Wasn't he praised for speed? Why did he let himself get caught so fast? Did he give up? Couldn't you hang on for at least a few days longer and let your brothers reach safety? Humph, a gimp is a gimp, alive or dead. Not a single damn use. Yushan cursed at the dead, but the top priority was still getting out of here and out of Juefan's range. As luck would have it, he was a short way off the metal exit. He only had to reach it, and he'd wallow in safety. Yushan set into a sprint, thinking he still had some time before Juefan got to him. Yushan dashed like a maniac, and the fact that Juefan hadn't shown himself yet eased some of his tense muscles. His guess had been spot on. Juefan would need time to get to him, but as we all know, appearances can be deceiving. The golden exit shined its glow before him, like the goddess of victory opening her arms to welcome him. But then his eyes shrank and his body froze in place. What awaited him were 2 very familiar figures, Yen Fu, the snitch, and Juefan, the demon. The viewers sighed. Oh, you poor schmuck, these 2 have been waiting for you for ages and you just had to walk right into their trap. Juefan looked at the sky and then at the dumbstruck Yushan. You came. I've been waiting here for an hour now. What are you doing here? How did you know I was coming here? And more importantly, did you come here to stop me? Yu Yushan's mind was going a mile a minute. Not knowing what to do, he just couldn't tell if Xue Fan was now a master diviner or not. How did he get here so fast moments after dealing with Lin Xianfeng? As if a mind reader, Xue Fan's cold smile came in response to his thoughts. Yu Yushan, you are Ning'er's executioner. Now then, what's the best way to go about killing you? Gulping, Yu Yushan watched Xue Fan inch closer towards him. His legs were shaking like noodles and he soon collapsed in fear. He started bawling on his knees for mercy. Brother, let me go! I am a mere underling. Ling Wuchang is the one who planned to kill her. Huang Puqintian was the director, and I was merely following orders. Take your revenge on them. I was just a lackey, mere nobody. Please let me go. TCH, what 6 dragons and 1 phoenix? Aren't they all sniveling cowards when death looms? Yen Fu was milking his dread for all he was worth. Xue Fan's follower felt no little satisfaction seeing the grand 6 dragons and 1 phoenix treated with such derision on the viewer's side. Everyone sported disgust at Yu Yushan's character. Valley Lord Yuanshan's face was dark and broody. Yu Yushan was a dragon, which in turn represented the image of Hell Valley. Even with his cultivation sealed, meeting Xue Fan would merely end up in death. But instead he opted for the coward's way out, bawling on his knees for his miserable life, while also shaming Hell Valley completely. The 7 houses of Tianyu were seen as lofty existences, revered and feared. But now, that respect is long gone. Even the great disciples of their houses were merely men in the end. They fear the strong and death just like the next bloke. Even our clans have a few intrepid characters among us. In this aspect at least, we are stronger than the houses. The 7 houses were seen as gods in the Tianyu Empire. But taking them down from their cozy throne would make all the reverence vanish. Fang Qiubai and Dugu Zhantian nodded with a smile the way they saw it. Xue Fan was practically issuing a death sentence to the houses. At the very least, the vassals the 7 houses enjoyed seeing fighting over their attention would thin out. It was just another blow at their name, what the emperor only dreamt of achieving. Who'd have thought it would come to fruition at the hands of Xue Fan? The 7 houses' image was almost ruined. The emperor would laugh for days if he knew. Long Xingyun and Xia Tianshang sighed at their fortune, the fortune of sticking with Xue Fan. Otherwise, they would have been standing in Yu Yushan's place by now. Losing their life was nothing compared to losing their house's image. Xue Fan was a demon archon, an incontestable existence. It was far better to join him than suffer his wrath. Long Xingyun looked at Long Yifi in respect. The old man knows his stuff to see the diamond in the rough. His mind is even sharper to stay close as well. Long Yifi noticed his son's eyes and held his head high. Xingyun, see that? That's how a house lord should be, to have an eye for talent. Xue Fan smirked at the hapless and disgusting thing. Did they also tell you to rob Ning'er's essence? Yu Yushan was sweating bullets, not missing a beat in his begging and bowing. They wanted to see her suffer and all I could do was follow orders. Here, take the girl's essence. Please have it and let me go. Yu Yushan took a censer from his ring and presented it. Xue Fan received it and looked at the pure essence within. Feeling the familiar aura, Xue Fan's hands shook, his heart was in pain and his eyes looked ready to burst. But he pushed the sadness back. Even with the essence in his hand, his towering rage blew like a volcano. Yu Yushan, since you took it, then you must know how long the body can last before it must be returned. 24 hours. Yu Yushan trembled, his voice faltering under Xue Fan's rage. Squinting, Xue Fan barked. You know it's useless now, yet you still dare to give it to me? I should smash you to death with it. Xue Fan was about to do just that. Yu Yushan held his head in fear. But as it was Ning'er's memento, he couldn't bear to stain her pure essence with this filth. Xue Fan put the censer away and smiled. Do you believe taking one's essence to be the most excruciating pain? Ha ha ha, that's because you haven't seen me do it. Chapter 331 Devoured. Chapter 331 Devoured. Elite Coder. When you do it. Yu Yushan shuddered in fear. Xue Fan sported his trademark twisted smile of cruelty. Those words had Yu Yushan scared to death. Rumble. Yu Yushan found himself paralyzed and slumped. Zhuofan walked up to him and showed an icy gourd. Yu Yushan, don't you find it odd how I'm in control of all your actions? How do I know your precise location? Blinking, Yu Yushan was filled with doubt but couldn't even speak. All he could do was watch Zhuofan with a chaotic mind. Ha ha ha, I don't mind telling you my little secret. To be quite honest, none of you are poisoned, but have my demonic creature in you as a parasite. These demonic creatures are linked with me. No matter where you go or you wish to go, I'll know it all. Zhuofan opened the gourd and a worm wiggled out. Yu Yushan's heart seized in shock. A demonic cultivator had demonic creatures, of course, but even he didn't know of such a devastating demonic creature that could control a radiant stage expert at this moment. He realized that they had Zhuofan's parasites within them, and even if they did run, they wouldn't leave Zhuofan's control. All of this death game nonsense had been rigged from the start. Zhuofan loomed over them like a god, and they were his puppets. Yu Yushan groaned in despair. Funny how they were filled with hope in finding the keys to get out alive, when everything was set from the beginning. Their fate was sealed. Zhuofan snickered. There's no point in crying over it. You guys still have hope. I won't be out there looking for my next victim as long as the current one entertains me enough. Make it worth my while, let me forget about everything and the others would have enough time to escape. What do you mean by that? Yu Yushan had a very bad feeling about this. Zhuofan laughed and said, Simple really. I'm ready to have some fun with you. Zhuofan flipped the gourd and bloodworms spilled out on Yu Yushan. He was deathly pale but couldn't move, only panicked. Zhuofan, what are you doing? Ha ha ha, what indeed? Can't you tell? I'm letting you have a taste of a pain worse than death by essence extraction. Zhuofan's eyes showed his savagery. A wail of agony broke the stillness of the forest. Those 1,000 squirming bloodworms burrowed into Yu Yushan's skin. They began feasting on his flesh, and blood started pouring from his body. His face twisted in pain, veins popping, mouth trembling from wanting to bite his tongue, but he was robbed of even that freedom. Zhuofan watched the convulsing body with eerie calmness. I've fed these 1,000 bloodworms my blood essence, but how could my meager blood be enough to quench their hunger? Fighting over a single drop of blood has turned them vicious. But thanks to you showing up, they can finally have their fill, ha ha ha. And that's not even half of it. They have tiny jaws but are quite pointy, with a passion for a man's mind. Over the next few days you ought to feel it, the pain. It's likely 100 times worse than having your essence drawn. The good news is, they are quite the slow eaters and like to keep the taste fresh, you see. So as they work their way deeper, they make sure to keep you from bleeding out. You won't die anytime soon, let me tell you, just enough for you to enjoy the sweet and blissful pain, ha ha ha. Ah, just kill me. Yu Yushan gnashed his teeth, roaring like a beast. Zhuofan only mocked him. That's not very nice. All the pain you're feeling will help by your eldest young master time. Isn't he your master? Weren't you obeying his orders? What can a meager sacrifice compare to that? Fuck him and kill me already. Then go and kill him too. Why should I suffer for him? Yu Yushan's eyes were popping out of his skull. Zhuofan's eyes glinted coldly. Since you don't consider him your master, why did you listen to his order and let Ning'er suffer? Humph, wake up and smell the roses. A man should own up to his mistakes and bear through the consequences. Zhuofan smiled and sat down to the side to heal. The wails of agony music to his ears. Yanfu shuddered, his back cold as ice. Glancing at the howling figure, then at the calm Zhuofan, his awe only grew. Steward's revenge isn't to be taken lightly. Not even the insufferable brats from the 7 houses have such capacity for cruelty. This was a good opportunity to see the vicious side of soaring demonic dragon. The viewers listened to the screams with fear in their hearts. Shui clan's 3 generations knew Zhuofan was doing it for Ning'er, but even they found the cruelty a touch inhumane. They found the murderer of their dear Ning'er a sorry sight, having offended Zhuofan. They actually felt pity for him. If the victims themselves would think so of their tormentor, it went without saying about the rest. In the minds of everyone out there, a single thought ruled: never ever mess with this demon Archon. Even as time trickled by, Yu Yushan's ravings never stopped. A day later, Yu Yushan's skin was gnawed away by the bloodworms, his face unrecognizable. He looked like a dried corpse, red all over yet without a drop of blood on him. The bloodworms made sure not to spill their drink, while Yu Yushan's screams were relentless. On the second day, all of Yu Yushan's tendons were devoured. All that was left was a pile of flesh, having nothing to hold him together. But Yu Yushan's cries kept on coming. On the third day, Yu Yushan's flesh was next. Even if he wanted to wail now, he couldn't. Wailing for 2 days straight had turned him mute. Then came the 4th day, and the bloodworms went to work on his bones. Finally, on the 9th day, Yu Yushan was picked almost completely clean. Whether intentional or not, the bloodworms left behind his vital organs intact. As if to let him see with his own eyes the gory sight that he was, without flesh and bones. At this vile and gruesome sight, Yen Fu's stomach flipped and emptied. The viewers were horrified by the torture, turning away to keep their own sanity. Yu Yushan's eyes glistened, begging Xuefan for death, the only thing he could do. His throat, neck and tongue had long been devoured. All that was left of him were a few arteries and organs barely keeping him from flatlining. Yet it was a pain worse than death. Xuefan glanced at the sufferer, looked at his pleading face, and said, "Want to die?" Yu Yushan rolled his eyes frantically. With the eyelids gone as well, he was hardly equipped to convey his meaning. Xuefan understood him clearly. The way Xuefan said, "Let this be a lesson. You can mess with the king of hell, but never with this steward." Yu Yushan's eyes moved faster, to convey that he understood. The viewers watched in shock. Xuefan was speaking more to them than to the dying Yu Yushan. His meaning was crystal clear. See that? Be nice and don't side with that rotten Regent estate against me. So what if you're from the 7 houses? Your death will be as brutal as I feel like it. Everyone came to the same sensible decision then and there, to be cautious. While for Regent estate's vassals, their minds began working as well, although from a different angle, to never involve themselves with the Luo clan. Even in death, their steward is a goddamned inquisitor. Fan Qiubai rejoiced inside. The brat is awesome. He made one guy take the fall and scared the rest from ever getting anywhere near Regent estate. Huangpu Tianyuan's face sank. He felt it loud and clear. How Xuefan had trampled on the Regent estate's 1,000-year-long prestige. How could they proclaim themselves rulers over Qianyu if everyone gave them a wide berth? Everyone from the Regent estate looked at Xuefan with hatred and helplessness. Xuefan signaled the bloodworms to devour the organs. They moved quickly and Yu Yushan was gone in moments. It was obvious that Xuefan was lying out of his ass when he said that bloodworms were slow eaters. It was only a means to torture Yu Yushan more, but watching himself being eaten quickly, spared of any further torment, Yu Yushan's final gaze was that of relief. Yen Fu gasped and rushed with the box over. "Steward Xue, please." "No need." Xuefan waved, his eyes savage. "We've wasted too much time here and the criminals are about to escape." Xuefan released another flare 1 firework. Huangpu Qingtian's number was up. "Just you wait. You are the one who will never ever leave this place alive." Chapter 332 Dragon Eater. Chapter 332 Dragon Eater. Elite Coder. Bang! A blazing light shined above Beast King Mountain just as Huangpu Qingtian got out from a bush. He saw a single firework and panicked. The demon has finally set his sights on me. However, with a sly grin, Huangpu Qingtian's eyes glinted and his hand flickered with 2 red crystals. He. Too little too late. Huangpu Qingtian took a deep breath and rushed forward filled with excitement. He had the fire keys and even the fire exit was just around the corner, needing merely 2 hours to reach it from the distance of the flare. He noticed that Xuefan was far away and would need a long time to catch up with how damaged he was. Even in this great escape, the true winner shall be me, the rightful king. Ha ha ha, Yu Yushan, well done in keeping the demon occupied for so long. I really have to thank you for helping me live. Huangpu Qingtian's tone turned colder. Although, that's providence. Sacrificing yourself for me is the highest form of death. I am a true king for old heaven to pave my way. Ha ha ha. Cackling, Huangpu Qingtian sped up as the arrogance returned to his face. To him, everything and anything that happened was providence. Xuefan could have easily broken his neck and be done with. But who knew what came over him to turn it all into a death game? Xuefan had already killed 2 of them, leaving the first and third free to roam the forest for quite a long time. This was clearly heaven bestowing its blessings and allowing the rightful king to make a comeback, to rule the world. Huang Puqingtian's narcissistic tendencies knew no bounds. Zhuofan, I'll let you have this one. But I am the true king. One day you will die by my hand, humph. Bloodthirst entered his eyes as he ran faster. Whoosh. An hour later, Huang Puqingtian flashed out of the high grass and appeared before the crimson crystal exit. With no one else around, Huang Puqingtian's face lit up. I knew the punk wouldn't make it. It's my win. The viewers saw him appear as well and were getting nervous. Was Zhuofan running late, leaving this guy to win? Everyone thought of it as a darn shame. Not just Drifting Flower's edifice and allies, but Regent Estate's many vassals hung their heads in defeat. It had started with Zhuofan having the 4 of their lives at his fingertips. He had insisted on torturing them one at a time only to finally let the main culprit off the hook. It wasn't out of hate for Huang Puqingtian, but people felt sorry for Zhuofan. If the praise slipped away from one's fingers, it was the worst feeling anyone could have. People started to send their hearts to Zhuofan. This must be the magnetism of the strong. Ling Wuchang frowned at everyone's reaction. As things stood, it was only a matter of time before Zhuofan would tarnish Regent Estate's entire reputation. The elders from Regent Estate had no clue about this, only rejoicing at seeing their eldest young master almost out of the woods. Huang Puqingtian was after all a renowned genius that not even the Regent Estate could afford to lose. I just need to put the crystals in and I'm done. Panting, Huang Puqingtian reached the exit and stabbed the crystals into grooves. A red pillar shot for the skies in a dazzling light show. Huang Puqingtian stared at the light with a smile. Ha ha ha, Zhuofan, I won! I'm still alive! Regent Estate's elders were excited as well, watching the national elemental stone with red eyes. If only the array wasn't a one-way transfer, they'd be in there dragging him here. Eldest young master, don't show off and hurry already. But a king wasn't a king without a bit of swag and hot air. Since he got out of hell, he had to first regain his rightful appearance worthy of his position, being unnecessarily pompous, unhurried in the least, especially when one step got him home. Huang Puqingtian's cocky look made the Regent Estate elders gnash their teeth. Huang Puqingtian first began with cleaning up his act and straightening his messy hair. He didn't forget to recover his usual haughty look after the exhaustion he had suffered all these days running, to regain his poised nobility, and to return home triumphant. Regent Estate elders' faces twitched. They wished nothing more than to give him a beating. Eldest young master, prancing aside, you're still in grave danger. Your life is about to run out, yet you actually have the time to stroke your ego. Humph, you'll only have yourself to blame if you die now. The Regent Estate's elders sighed, not realizing their complaints turned out to be curses. Huang Puqingtian, having finally recovered a modicum of royal cockiness, strutted towards the fire exit like the true winner of the esoteric debate. Then, a thunderous boom came with the fall of lightning. Stop! Huang Puqingtian's lifted leg twisted and exploded in a mist of blood. His body had yet to pass the veil, and a heart-rending pain stabbed his chest as he collapsed. Huang Puqingtian didn't need to turn around to know who was behind him. Startled, Huang Puqingtian never would have guessed Zhuofan would reach him so fast when he was already so hurt. Does this mean he was going to die? What about that prancing just now? All that showing off and priming himself made him look like a clown. Huang Puqingtian gnashed his teeth and kicked with his remaining leg before he hit the ground, aiming for the exit. His life aside, he had to survive and maintain his regal prestige. He could not allow his royal self to be reduced to a laughingstock. He had to become the final winner, the only champion, and receive the people's worship. But a flash of thunder and a black figure slamming into his spine destroyed any hope of reaching the full height of his glory. Instead, he was now a meter into the ground and spitting blood. What made it worse was his finger being a millimeter from victory. So close yet so far. Eldest young master! The Regent Estate elders cried. Struggling so hard to make one last push yet failing, filled Huang Puqingtian with desperation. Stepping on Huang Puqingtian, Zhuofan grinned and panted. Huang Puqingtian, I finally caught up. You almost had me worried there, that I would lose my chance, he. Zhuofan, how did you get here so fast? Huang Puqingtian turned a hateful glare at the man on his spine. But didn't finish as it all made sense. Behind Zhuafan was Yen Fu jumping off of a purple bird and rushing to Zhuafan. Zhuafan snickered. Do you get it now? I lost my wings, but I still have a thunder skylark. With speed as its focus, it was of great help catching up in time. Huang Puqin Tian lamented. How could I forget that punk still had a spiritual beast? It had gotten to his head that with the punk's meager speed, he had enough time to prance a bit and tend to his regal good looks. He would have skipped all that waste of time if he knew and avoided this mess by jumping right in, but no, he just had to show off his flashy side and die, becoming the butt of Tianyu's joke. Huang Puqin Tian wailed some more. Zhuafan, kill me then! But I am king decreed by heaven and I ask that you let me go with dignity. Squinting, Zhuafan snorted. Humph, dignity is it? Sure. I'll make sure to pick the most dignified death I can think of. Zhuafan leaned and bit his ear off. Ah! Huang Puqin Tian raved in pain. See, Zhuafan, what are you doing? Me? Humph, didn't you want the most dignified death? Wish granted. I'll bury you all in my belly, far more respectful than having dirt peppered all over you in a hole somewhere. Zhuafan grinned with bloodthirsty eyes that came as a shock to all who heard him. Soaring demonic dragon was planning on eating heaven-shaking dragon lord alive. Followed by shivers of fear. That is the cruelest death yet. Is Huang Puqin Tian truly a son of heaven for the dragon soul to protect him so much? Zhuafan only grinned. He saw the dragon's soul coming for another pass and said, Humph, a mere earth spirit dares defy this emperor? Die! Then an azure flame flickered from his forehead. The azure flame expanded into a firebird. It took to the skies and shot for the petrified dragon's soul. The dragon's soul downright panicked, shuddered, then hightailed it. A bit too late for that, unfortunately. The azure bird flashed before it and clawed at its body. It held the dragon like a meager worm as it doubled back. The dragon's soul only whimpered as the bird flew back to Zhuafan. Now that got a reaction out of the crowd, or more precisely a lack of reaction. People stared at Zhuafan blankly. Huang Puqin Tian's mind blew away as he couldn't quite find any words to speak. What the hell? That's a dragon vein soul. How does a blue bird get to dangle it back just like that? The kid has his own spirit, far stronger than even Huang Puqin Tian's dragon vein soul. Fan Qiubai shouted. The dragon vein soul was a rarity in the world, the symbol of kings. Who thought it possible then that Zhuafan would have something far more deadly? Just who is he? He is from a third-rate clan, so why is he covered with treasures? Zhuge Chanfeng stroked his beard, watching Zhuafan with blazing eyes. Only Regent Estate's side was in pain. The stronger Zhuafan was, the bigger the threat. And now that the king's symbol was crushed so easily, this feeling only grew stronger. This signified he was the rightful king upon this world. Heaven-approved Regent Estate's resentment billowed and their hatred grew. Zhuafan, the little demon, no longer just had the potential to be a threat, but a veritable one at their own survival. A monster that defied the heavens. We need to make time and seek the high priest for answers. Where did he come from? How did he make the dragon vein soul surrender? Huang Puqian sighed. Ling Wuchang nodded as well, his face deep in ponder. Man proposed and heaven disposed. Ling Wuchang had flawless plans, but that only accounted for men. Anything he tried with those decreed by heaven would be rendered null. They would be under Providence's care and would come back from death's door stronger than ever. He never wanted to mess with these freaks for the same reason Huang Puqin Tian qualified as one when he got the dragon soul's approval. All of the Regent Estate, including him, called Huang Puqin Tian as heaven's chosen. That his arrogance was God-given and justified, that belief only grew stronger as the third of the four pillars, Tianyu's high priest, gave his vague acknowledgement. But at this very moment, this heaven's chosen was being eaten alive by Zhuafan. Even his guardian, Dragon Soul, could do nothing to stop it. Is this also by providence that the punk has a kingly disposition? Or is it perhaps coming from somewhere beyond heaven? Ling Wuchang saw Zhuafan as a fearful enigma. Huang Puqin Tian saw his dragon soul coming back in the bird's claws and cried, Zhuafan, who the hell are you? You just called yourself emperor then. None of your business. Zhuafan mocked. All you need to know is this. Messing with me is the worst mistake of your miserable life. Zhuofan took a bite out of his throat this time, tearing it off. Blood poured and Huangpu Qingtian's eyes dulled, feeling his life drained from him. With that, the golden energy left his body and entered Zhuofan. The azure bird brought the dragon soul back. Just in time to see the golden energy moving into Zhuofan, it released its claws and shocked. The dragon's soul roared in its newfound freedom, but it didn't attack Zhuofan this time, and instead circled him twice. It watched the golden energy move, then entered Zhuofan's body itself roar. As another dragon roar came, Zhuofan didn't seem to feel any change, but then he exploded with light. The azure bird nodded and returned into Zhuofan as well. Huangpu Tianyuan, having witnessed this event, cried, "Royal transfer! The world is about to change!" Chapter 334 World Changes. Chapter 334 World Changes. Elite Coder. Roar! With one more dragon roar, Zhuofan glowed golden as he himself let out a roar of his own. Huangpu Qingtian soaked in his own blood, weak and fading. Watching the blinding golden light, he shouted his frustration and agony in his mind, "That is my right. Zhuofan, give it back, give it back." Zhuofan had bit his throat clean off, and he had no way to speak. He could only express the regret and resentment on his face as he watched his greatest enemy steal his own dragon soul, take his dragon power, and for Providence to make him king instead. How is this possible? How can Providence change? I am Tianyu's rightful ruler. Return my dragon soul. It's not you, not you. Huangpu Qingtian's eyes dimmed and he finally slumped his head, losing the last trace of life. Only his resentful eyes still spoke of his wretched death. The viewers couldn't care less about Huangpu Qingtian's grievances. They had more important things to mind right now, like watching Zhuofan. Dragon Veins' dragon soul can be transferred? Does that mean Zhuofan is the new king decreed by heaven? Rumble! With a thunderclap, the sky darkened and lightning brewed. The earth shook so hard no one could stand up straight on Beast King Mountain. All spiritual beasts curled up in the safety of their den. Even the dreaded 6th-level spiritual beasts tucked away their heads in fear. Only Zhuofan roared at the sky, while the golden light grew in intensity. "Prime Minister, what's happening?" His two elders asked. Zhuge Qianfeng saw them baffled and sighed with a grave face as he said, "The High Priest told me once that when the world shakes, heavy changes are upon us. Tianyu is about to change." The people turned back to the roaring Zhuofan with a pensive expression. Is this change related to that man? In Regent Estate's home city, Caged Dragon's city, the earth shuddered, and the entire city wobbled. High Venerable Huangpu Fenglei woke up from his meditation in shock. He came out of his room and shouted, "Guard, what is going on?" "High Venerable, the dragon vein is rebelling." A profound heaven expert kneeled. Huangpu Fenglei shouted, "Impossible. Regent Estate has defended the dragon vein for 1,000 years and it has never rebelled once. One of the 9 dragon souls even came out from the seal, so how can it still rebel? I don't know, but the other 8 are hammering the seal. The shock waves have killed many bone-tempering experts. We can't hold much longer, High Venerable. What do we do?" Huangpu Fenglei frowned and shouted, "Call all Regent Estate's venerables at the seal and suppress the dragon souls. Get the ones in seclusion as well. If they are released, we'll be the first to suffer their wrath." "Understood." The man rushed to obey. Huangpu Fenglei shot for the seal the next second. He just couldn't make sense of why the dragon vein souls would suddenly rebel in a dark alley of Caged Dragon City. Shadows shifted. "Elder Yen, how do we get in with Regent Estate on high alert?" a charming voice said. She was Lei Yuding, Luo Clan's Shadow Corps captain. The one across from her was Vicious Pill King, in his 40s, looking at the strict guard at the gate. Just like in the imperial capital, Yen Song sighed. "Even with the energy-concealing pill to evade the guards, we'll be sitting ducks once we set foot inside with the dozens of venerables and their discerning fields. Slipping in now is impossible. We still have to do it. Zhuofan said we will one day go to war with the 7 houses, and an intelligence network is paramount. With the Regent Estate having Ling Wuqiang, it is imperative that we get any information as early as possible." Lei Yuding was firm in her decision. Yen Song sighed. He caressed his beard, thinking of a way to achieve it. A sudden boom shook the ground in the sky, and a billowing black cloud launched lightning everywhere in Cage Dragon City. Yen Song's team had no idea what happened. All they saw were men rushing towards a golden light. They were a mix of radiant stage experts and profound heaven experts. Vicious Pill King was speechless, then burst out. Ha ha ha, it's Providence! Something big must be happening to Regent Estate right now to get all venerables and their profound heaven experts to leave this place. Chapter 335 Fanatic Protects. Chapter 335 Fanatic Protects. Elite Coder. Taking a deep breath, Zhuofan looked at the faint golden glow around himself and smiled, sensing the golden dragon resting in his dantian. He had used diamond sand to temper himself, and now he had dragon veins, dragon power, and a king's dragon soul. 3 great treasures for body cultivation combined in one vessel. He simply needed to refine the dragon power and unite with the dragon soul, and his body would soar above even Huangpu Qingtian. Speaking of which, he threw a condescending smile at those resentful eyes. Weren't you calling yourself a rightful king, decreed by Providence? Humph, I stole everything you had, including your destiny. Suddenly, Zhuofan fell silent and his heart felt uneasy. Is the dragon soul's shift heaven sent or a disaster? He felt something in the air had changed. As the dragon soul now resided within his body, he sensed the other factions' attitudes shift. Especially the imperial families. Then again, which emperor out there would allow the one calling himself rightful king take his throne? Huangpu Qingtian was so egotistical to spout it left and right because the regent estate had his back. For Zhuofan to keep his life. The time has come for the Luo clan to show its power. Squinting, Zhuofan sighed. Then, a yellow pillar of light shot into the sky 1,000 miles from him. Yen Fu paled. Yen Bongi got away! Zhuofan glanced and merely shook his head. An ant, nothing more. Yen Fu stammered, but kept his trap shut despite the resentment. What, you have a bone to pick with him? Zhuofan saw right through him. Yen Fu only sighed. Zhuofan patted his shoulder, his eyes glinting mysteriously. Relax, you are with me now. I will definitely help you deal with it. Yen Fu saw Zhuofan's cryptic smile. Yen Bongi passed through the Earth National Elemental Stone flustered, gasping and rejoicing for having escaped that living nightmare. Yen Bagong almost broke down crying from joy. My family! I'm finally back. It wasn't easy escaping that monster. Yen Bagong saw Pill King Hall's most prized pupil return in tears. Of the 6 dragons, Zhuofan had reaped 3, making the last survivor to be treated like a treasure. The Pill King Hall rushed to console him and congratulate the safe return of their plagued dragon. After a short moment of joy, Hall Lord Yen Bagong turned to Zhuofan, being reflected on the Fire National Elemental Stone. His face grew dark and he said, Bongi, we and Estate Lord Huangpu struck a secret deal. When the punk comes back, we'll attack him together. Stay behind me and try to land the killing blow to wash the shame of betrayal. Let the world know of Pill King Hall's power. Yen Bongi jerked, but when he saw Zhuofan, all he had was deep-rooted fear. Spare me, Hall Lord. I escaped that monster by the skin of my teeth, and now you want me to die again? Yen Bagong knew what he was thinking and got angry. Useless prick, are you that horrified after the punk gave you a little fright? Humph, relax. It will be us old fellows going first. You only have to go and collect his head and restore our image. This is an easy merit. What, you don't even know how to pick up a head? Yen Bongi was quite hesitant but nodded at the end. Yen Bagong broke out into a smile. That's our Pill King Hall's disciple, ha ha ha. Viewers turned their attention to the Fire National Elemental Stone, waiting for Zhuofan and Yen Fu's return. It's time. Zhuofan stood before the fire exit, viewers clueless of his meaning as was Yen Fu. But then, he looked at the sky and raised his palm as he muttered. Yen Fu asked, Steward Zhua, what? Yen Fu, weren't you vexed at letting Yen Bongi off? Ha ha ha, as a reward for your great service, and your welcome gift in the Luo clan, I, its steward, shall fulfill your cherished wish. Zhuofan started to bend one finger at a time as he said, 5-4. Everyone was puzzled just like Yen Fu. 3-2. What is the punk playing at? Yen Bagong looked at his allies. Only Ling Wuchang was in constant pondering, then shouted at Yen Bagong. "Oh, Lord Yen, get away from the kid!" "What?" Yen Bagong was still out of it just then. Everyone heard. "One." With the final word, Xue Fan made a fist bang. A ringing explosion came out of nowhere, as Yen Bongi didn't even realize. As he went boom, the devastating power crippled the elders from Pil King Hall. Yen Bongi had just entered the radiant stage, and his explosion took many elders down with him. Even their vassals came out bloodied. Their casualties were in the hundreds, while the lucky ones who survived didn't get to enjoy their fortune as Yen Bongi's blood landed on them, eating their flesh and bone alike. Everything around Pil King Hall was thrown into chaos, with corpses littering the ground. Pil King Hall instantly lost 8 elders. A crippling blow. Yen Bagong crawled from beneath a pile of corpses and shook at the carnage laid before him. "What happened? Why are Pil King Hall's experts almost all dead?" Looking at the corpse pinning him down, Yen Bagong panicked as he pushed it away, seeing it was eaten by Yen Bongi's blood, a trait of the poison body. If not for the guy taking the fall for him, he'd be dead right now. The other houses saw the horror and fled from Pil King Hall. No one could understand why the peach-perfect Yen Bongi just popped, but a malicious cackle grated their ears. Hi. Xue Fan held his forehead as he laughed. Noon got the joke, and neither did Yen Fu. Steward Xue, what's wrong?" "Oh, nothing, only laughing at a bunch of morons." "Did they actually think I'd let him live?" Yen Fu blinked, to which Xue Fan explained. "From the start, I made sure to come prepared. The bloodworms are connected to me, so I made sure to arm them. As long as any of those dumbasses left Beast King Mountain, they were to self-destruct in 10 minutes. What a stroke of luck! They always believed they had a way out, and they gave their all in reaching the exit. All of it was just a grand act, a joke of epic proportions, ha. This entire game was never meant to have a winner." Xue Fan's eyes glinted. Yen Fu's heart froze. Going by his words, Yen Bongi became a ticking time bomb the moment he stepped in Dragon Cloud City. He must be in pieces by now. Xue Fan grinned, knowing what was going in that head of his. "You guessed it, the brat is toast, cooked. A radiant stage expert's self-destruct ought to have taken many lives with him as well. As for how many, care to guess? Was there even a point? Almost none from Pil King Hall could escape." Yen Bongi was put in the center moments after returning, finding out that the rotten senior brother of his who always mocked him was toyed to death by the demon himself. Yen Fu should be happy. But no joy reached his heart for some odd reason. He felt safe around Xue Fan, true, but the fear was up to par by comparison. It was unnerving. Even when his most hated enemy suffered at the hands of the demon, what he felt instead was a bit of sympathy, true to his words. "You can mess with the King of Hell, but never with this steward. Offending the King of Hell, at the worst you just die. Offend Steward Xue, and you'd find that even death would be a luxury in Dragon Cloud City." Everyone looked at Xue Fan in dread. Yen Bongi ran with such zeal thinking he'd escape, but Xue Fan cooked a little something for Pil King Hall and sent him off with a package. This creepy method and insidious plot left the survivors shuddering. Even Ling Wuchang, a renowned mind in the Empire, looked at the snickering figure in fear. Xue Fan had long surpassed Zhuge Changfeng and became his biggest enemy. Well, time to head back. Xue Fan returned to his cool demeanor, but his eyes hid a deep and heavy sorrow as he walked towards the red glow. Yen Fu nodded. Whoosh. The two stepped through and were back. The people treated him like a demon, shaking in fear. Only the girls were happy seeing him alive and went to welcome him. Then it happened. Explosions sounded as 4 men attacked the pair. A great pressure fell on the people, making them fall back in panic. The 4 were none other than Huangpu Tianyuan and his allies. All peaked profound heaven house lords. Fang Qiubai was about to block them but stayed his hand. After careful consideration, he picked neutrality. Dugu Zhantia and watched it all with a cold eye and a lament. Perhaps it's for the best. Only Luo Yunchang and Chu Qingqing were devastated. They wanted to give a helping hand. "Xue Fan, you'll pay for what you did to my son!" Huangpu Tianyuan roared his righteous excuse, punching straight for Xue Fan. Yen Fu, behind Xue Fan, could barely breathe from the power display. The other 3 house lords unleashed their own might as well. Xue Fan, heavily wounded, was besieged by 4 experts on all sides. Escape was not an option. Not that he was worried. With a twisted grin, he said, "Sorry, but you're a little late in getting revenge for Huangpu Qintian." An explosion followed as a black figure slammed the 4 into the air. Xue Fan's eyes glinted and he smiled. "As I live and breathe, elderly." Chapter 336 Fanatic Fights Sword God. Chapter 336 Fanatic Fights Sword God. Elite Coder. Boom! The ringing from the boom had yet to stop, forcing the people to cover their ears. The thick dust had Xue Fan and Yan Fu obscured within it. Huangpu Tianyuan's team of 4 finally landed while coughing blood. The respective house elders surrounded their house lords and checked their wounds, but Huangpu Tianyuan flicked his sleeve, shooing the elder before him aside. His eyes peered into the dust, and he spat. "Who the hell dares to interfere in the Regent Estate's affairs?" Fang Qiubai and Dugu Zhantian looked towards the commotion with a frown. They knew who it was, but they were baffled why that man was on Xue Fan's side. The rest of the houses watched intently. They were all dying to know at this point. Who had the nerve to save Xue Fan from the clutches of Regent Estate? Once the dust settled somewhat, it revealed an imposing physique. An outstandish old man, poised and his back straight, stood in front of Xue Fan. His tyrannical aura bent on crushing everyone in his path hung heavy over everyone's hearts. He was none other than one of the rare top radiant stage experts in Tianyu. "Mad Dipper, Li Jingtian!" A Regent Estate elder shouted. "Elderly, you are a guest venerable of ours. Where have you been over the past few years? Why are you suddenly siding with that punk? He is the Regent Estate's greatest enemy." Those words set the crowd reeling. The mystery expert was Regent Estate's venerable, the living legend, Mad Dipper Li Jingtian. He truly lived up to his name, respected and feared. Both Fang Qiubai and Dugu Zhantian were startled as well. Nobody knew of Li Jingtian's strength before, but the vibes he was sending deterred even the mighty divine dragon. "Elderly!" A cry sounded, making the eyes of everyone land on Luo Yunchang. To everyone's shock, she ran to Li Jingtian's side and patted his chest. "Thanks to your timely arrival, Xue Fan is safe." Twitching, everyone looked puzzled, the 7 house lords included. What's that Lu Miss doing being so friendly with that savage fiend? Li Jingtian's reaction, however, got a priceless expression out of them all. "Ha ha ha, young miss, relax. Nothing will happen to Steward Xue. Not when he has such a cunning nature." Li Jingtian laughed. The people went slack-jawed. "Say what? Young Miss Steward Xue? Tell me it isn't true. How, why, when? The Luo clan is just a third-rate upstart clan. How in the hell did they manage to entice that old freak Mad Dipper to become their venerable instead? That makes the Luo clan practically on par with the 7 houses. Ha ha ha, we must be tripping. That Mad Dipper must have been conned into helping them just like Xue Fan did with Dugu Zhantian. There's absolutely no way, not in a million years, for him to be on their side." Then again, seeing how the punk's methods were quite all-encompassing, the kid could practically turn everyone into his backers. Sighing, the crowd's opinion of Xue Fan jumped again, and that went for everyone there, from no-name clans to the 7 house lords. Since having a backer and joining them were totally different things, a backer was good as a makeshift safeguard, but by joining the clan wholly, the man could both defend and attack in need, turning the clan into a force to be reckoned with. Xue Fan was great, no doubt, but not even he could pull a peak radiant stage expert to his side, to join a third-rate clan no less. That was simply ludicrous. Long Yifi and the rest shook their heads. We must be overthinking things. If Li Jingtian was their venerable, then the Luo clan was a match for the 7 houses. A truly cruel and delicious irony how everyone was denying the truth, staring them dead in their faces. Depending on the viewpoint, of course. "Elderly, what's the meaning of this? You may be friends with the punk, but clan matters come first. You need to address this with utmost severity. Why are you stopping me from taking revenge for my son?" Huangpu Tianyuan raved. Squinting, Li Jingtian laughed. "Ha ha ha, Estate Lord Huangpu, that's exactly right. I of course take the clan's interests into heavy consideration. That is why, as Luo clan's elder, I cannot allow you to touch one hair of our steward. Dom! A bomb went off in all of their heads. They felt their minds swoon after being smacked with a copper bell right in the noggin. Reeling from shock, they looked at Li Jingtian gobsmacked. The Mad Dipper actually joined the Luo clan. And he's just a friggin' elder. As if. Are you high? Did you just get up and quit the prestigious position of a guest venerable over at Regent Estate to become a mere elder for a third-rate clan? Huangpu Tianyuan stammered all this time. Ling Wuchang twirled his beard and asked, Elderly, why? Humph, isn't it obvious? There was nothing holding me back, no incentive at all. I dumped Regent Estate for the Luo clan because they can give me something you can't. Li Jingtian smiled with pride now that definitely got a shocking reaction. The grandiose head of houses was dumped over a tiny clan. That had got to be the joke of the century. Hearing it from anyone else, it would earn a couple of laughs. But it came directly from the source. Mad Dipper himself, a peak radiant stage expert, abandoned all those benefits and downshifted to become some elder? Why the hell would he do that if there was nothing in it for him? It begged the question, though, what could the Luo clan hold to make Mad Dipper wipe his hands off of the Regent Estate? All eyes were on Zhuofan. Everyone knew that only one man was capable of making the old demon switch camps. He definitely had a hand in this, but even then, getting him to change sides was a godlike move. How did he do it? Longzhou sighed. I knew the kid is an expert at stealing others' foundations. Fortunately, we are a tight-knit house, or even our experts would have fallen for his bewitching promises. Unaware as he was that Zhuofan wouldn't take them even if they were given for free. Moving past the standard reaction of shock everyone showed today, Li Jingtian turned to the one-armed Zhuofan with a heartbroken expression. Taking him into a bear hug, the man spoke solemnly. Steward Zhua, what are your orders? Zhuofan glanced over to the Regent Estate and said, No one from the Regent Estate leaves this place alive. The cold and insipid tone rang into people's ears. The demon is that cruel to go ahead and wipe out all Regent Estate's elders? Mad Dipper was no fool. Doing so was declaring war with the head of the houses. This was not a game. Zhuofan was consumed by his hatred and desire for revenge. With Li Jingtian being Regent Estate's venerable once, he should still have some lingering feelings left over for his ex-employer. Now that he was a mere elder, he should think about the clan's needs and not follow the demon steward's ramblings. Li Jingtian simply patted his shoulder and turned to Regent Estate's men with a look that promised death and agony. He was hellbent on murdering anyone to fulfill Zhuofan's design. He's nuts. The entire Luo clan is going along with Zhuofan's madness. After a quick sigh of lamentation, everyone scampered off. Noon wanted to be here and suffer a quick death when a radiant stage expert went on a murdering spree. Long Yifi thought about advising against it. But Zhuofan and Li Jingtian's determined gazes made him falter. All he could do was follow his clansmen in getting away from here. It was then that Li Jingtian kicked it off with a bang. The power and the pressure were that of a mountain coming down on you. Huangpu Tianyuan and his 30-ish elders group gasped, but found even breathing hard. They couldn't even fight back. This was the power of a peak radiant stage expert. These guys were nothing but ants to Li Jingtian. But then, a boom announced the approach of a man in white, facing off Li Jingtian with a palm attack. Boom! The world felt like it was falling apart as the two palms collided. All anyone could do was duck their heads and cover their ears. Long Yifi and the rest of the Profound Heaven experts were feeling horrible just the same. They covered their ears and stood up a bit. But if the flowing sweat was any indication, they had to be feeling just as powerless as their neighbors if they were to face these palms instead. Tap. The two withdrew 5 steps. Looking up, the one facing Li Jingtian was none other than Jade Flute Divine Sword. Fang Qiubai cupping his hands, Fang Qiubai spoke. Mad Dipper Li Jingtian, your name precedes you. One of the Imperial family's 5 divine dragons, Jade Flute Divine Sword. Fang Qiubai. I've long since waited for this. One glance is enough to tell me of your uncommon character. But are you certain you want to go head-to-head with me? Li Jingtian smiled, his eyes exploding with bloodthirst. The martial fanatic in him reared its head, fueling his desire to fight. Chapter 337 Stalemate. Chapter 337 Stalemate. Elite Coder. Fan Qiubai waved him off. Brotherly, I would never treat you as an enemy. It is the Emperor's decree, you see, to defend Dragon Cloud City's public order. I was forced to intervene the moment you attacked Regent Estate. I ask that you be sensible and let this matter rest. It would be for the best of both the Regent Estate and Luo clan, wouldn't you say? Li Jingtian's eye twitched, realizing this opponent of his knew his way with words. If the Luo clan and Regent Estate fought it out now, both sides would end up with a disaster. He was at an impasse, however. A glance at Xuefan's cold face and the seething bloodthirst in his eyes made that choice for him. Li Jingtian gnashed his teeth and smirked. Mr. Fang, it's been ages since I met an opponent like yourself. How about we spar a little? Fan Qiubai frowned at Li Jingtian's smile. I forgot, Mad Dipper is a martial fanatic, but he is not an idiot either. So why would he insist on being so reckless? Killing even a single elder of Regent Estate today will set off Regent Estate on the warpath against the Luo clan. The answer was made clear soon enough. Li Jingtian looked back and Xuefan said something to him. It was unimaginable to see the great Mad Dipper actually abiding by a pup's every word. Talking to Li Jingtian now wouldn't change a damn thing, so he had to switch gears and talk it out with Xuefan. Fan Qiubai said, Steward Zhua, I understand your anger, but this is not the place to settle your grudges. I ask that you do not forsake your clan over a single loss. That had the crowd thrown in a loop. If he wants to persuade someone, he should do that with Li Jingtian. Who is to stop him if he decides otherwise? Then it dawned on them like the sun's morning glow. Oh, Li Jingtian is doing it at Xuefan's orders. Does that mean a word out of him can make Li Jingtian stop? A peak radiant stage expert, Mad Dipper in particular, is actually housebroken? The vassals and the 7 house lords turned to Xuefan to gawk in shock. That's a radiant stage expert we're talking about. These guys are venerables in the 7 houses. One would have to beg for any kind of help. Even the house lords need to watch their words around them. And all they could do is make requests, not order them around. Or the venerable will simply scoff at anybody pleading to them. But here is one peak radiant stage expert who is listening to a kid. Did Li Jingtian mellow out, or are Xuefan's methods far more sinister? Then again, Mad Dipper was called as such for a very good reason. That made the first reason moot, and the second one highly plausible. Xuefan was versed with so much knowledge that he could even get Mad Dipper to fall in line, so why is he then just an elder and not a venerable? Venerables, who are on the same status as a patriarch, were above a house lord who could only order elders around. Xuefan, oh Xuefan, you are just a steward, so how can you tell an elder what to do? Long Yifi and the rest sighed watching him. This kid might very well be the greatest steward to have ever walked the earth. It's hard to tell if I should be happy or sad if I had such a capable steward in my clan. Xuefan ignored the chatter and stared back at Fan Qiubai, then turned his head away. Don't care. Fan Qiubai faltered. This punk doesn't know when to quit. Li Jingtian laughed it off, filled with thirst for battle. Mr. Fang, it's hard for me to find such a good opponent like you. I won't be holding back. Please return in kind. I won't be blamed for any unforeseen demise on your part. Brotherly, I feel the need to stress this. Per Emperor's orders, I cannot allow you to rain havoc in Dragon Cloud City. Fan Qiubai saw talking was off the table and the jade flute began to let out sounds. Li Jingtian saw Fan Qiubai getting serious, and was overjoyed. He gave a belly laugh, then charged with a dragon roar. Wraith Style's second move, Ghostly Dragon Claw. Roar! Li Jingtian was covered from head to toe in black energy, and a claw sprung out. The power it released was intent on tearing a hole in space itself. Fan Qiubai gasped. He let the shock subside and turned serious as well. With the flute in hand, he stabbed at the incoming attack. Profound Heaven Sword Star! Hum! The jade flute was wrapped in a blue wind and turned into a sword, its tip shooting into the sky. The black and blue auras collided, shuddering the hearts of onlookers. Then came the shock wave, turning to dust anything in its path. Fortunately, The people were wise enough to stay clear from the start, lest they'd be pulverized as well by now. Once all settled down, they watched on slack-jawed. Li Jingtian and Fan Qiubai were staring at each other with grave faces mere 5 meters away from each other. Jade Flute Divine Sword's hand holding the flute trembled. While Li Jingtian's brows shook, far more astounded, his hand was dripping blood on the ground. Elderly lost? Luo Yunchan was filled with worry. Zhuo Fan only shook his head. It's no loss, but a stalemate. Neither could overpower the other. The next second, a sharp crack announced the crumbling flute falling to the ground from Fan Qiubai's hand. Fan Qiubai sighed at his loss. Brotherly, this flute has followed me for 50 years. I never thought I'd see it crumble here. Take it as me having lost by a fraction. Li Jingtian smiled, lifting his bloody palm and speaking cheerfully. This iron hand of mine has been with me for 158 years. But today it has come to harm. I have lost in this exchange. The two stared for a second before laughing it up, while respecting each other for the hero the other was in their hearts. Mr. Fang, should we go at it again and settle this stalemate? Li Jingtian spoke while waving his bloody hand. Fan Qiubai looked at the broken flute and nodded. Since Brotherly is so courteous, I shall oblige. Marvelous! Li Jingtian laughed and attacked, but then Zhuo Fan said, Elderly, we'll leave it here today, out of respect for Mr. Fang. We'll just have to settle our grudges with Regent Estates some other time. The people's faces twitched. That's a nice way of putting it. What respect for Mr. Fang? You should have done that from the start if you had any respect for the man. Saying it now when you know fighting won't get you anywhere makes you look like a hypocrite. At least he was far better than those stupid heads knowing only to push ahead regardless. The kid sure is smart, to know when to retreat. Fan Qiubai smiled. Then, Brotherly, we will spar again another day. Or your steward might get angry. Li Jingtian sighed with a nod. Fine, since Steward was said so. I don't have a choice but to fight another day. Li Jingtian cupped his hands and walked back to Zhuo Fan while Fan Qiubai stood there with a heavy frown. He had just taunted Li Jingtian, to see if he was so resolute in following the little demon's words, not expecting at all that Li Jingtian hadn't even entertained the notion of defying Zhuo Fan's orders, his reply being very calm. As if the Grand Mad Dipper listening to a brat was the norm, not to mention he was devoted to a fault. Zhuo Fan's qualifications as king had now evolved. It wasn't as simple as drawing his peers over to his side, but included the power to rally astonishing people like Li Jingtian under his banner. It only proved the fact that Zhuo Fan was far more worthy to be king than Huangpu Jingtian. Getting Dragon Vein Soul was a mere coincidence. He had the power to become an emperor already, but now it was also decreed by heaven itself. At that moment, Zhuo Fan became the #1 threat for the imperial family in Fan Qiubai's mind. Mr. Fang! Zhuo Fan called with a cryptic smile. You were very quick in stopping Elderly. You are a true divine dragon. His Majesty made the right choice in sending you to preside over Dragon Cloud City's order. Fan Qiubai's face flushed a bit. No one but him could sense the dripping sarcasm. He's mocking me for not intervening when Huangpu Tianyuan's team attacked him before, but stepping in when Li Jingtian attacked. Chapter 338 Declaration of War. Chapter 338 Declaration of War. Elite Coder. On the Luo clan's way back, Zhuo Fan was the picture of calmness. Li Jingtian stuck to him like glue, creating a stifling atmosphere that no one around dared to break and approach. Everyone watched them go in shock, even the house lords. No one had seen it coming. A mere third-rate clan had risen to the ranks of a house the instant Li Jingtian showed up next to them. Nobody present knew a house, except Regent Estate of course, that had someone at the height of power as Li Jingtian had reached, a peak radiant stage expert. Not to mention the said expert could fight divine dragon Fan Qiubai to a draw. This fact only gave the Luo clan even greater importance from now on. Luo clan wasn't merely at the level of a house, but was right below Regent Estate. Any offense would be met with impunity from Li Jingtian, annihilating their entire clan. Such a thing had never achieved in the past because of the delicate balance of power. This also did not push the other clans into a corner, but now, Yuan Shan and the other houses who held a grudge with Shui Fan had to reconsider their approach to revenge, as the Luo clan had now become the second house under Regent Estate. Luo clan was strong, but only because of Li Jingtian alone, yet that man was strong enough to shock everyone. Luo clan slowly made their way to their accommodations in Dragon Cloud City. Shui Fan had a deathly look on his face that no one disturbed. And in this manner they walked further and further away. Suddenly Shui Fan stopped and looked at Ling Wuchang with a sinister smile as he shouted, "Sir Lung, I admit my loss this time. But the games have just begun. Let us have a blast next time, ha ha ha." Shui Fan's eyes exploded with hatred, and coupled with his creepy tone, everyone's hair stood on end. Ling Wuchang's face grew graver than ever. But it only matched Shui Fan's bloodthirsty stare. It was Zhuge Changfeng who then said, "Sir Ling, you really kicked the hornet's nest this time, ha ha ha." Zhuge Changfeng then left with his two elders. Ling Wuchang's beard shuddered in rage. The others around him were too scared to make a peep. It was a tangle between big shots, not something they should, but in messing with the Regent Estate would get one killed, erasing the body and clan. While pissing off Shui Fan, who had tormented half of the 6 dragons, none of the vassals and small clans dared to imagine, not to mention they had a peak Radiant stage expert as cover, bringing them on the same level as the 7 houses under the watchful eyes of the crowd. The 2 houses had sparks flying when their gazes met. Ahem! People, in all the esoteric debates held over the millennium, the grudges aren't brought back from the competition. If the 2 houses wish to resolve their hatred, please wait for the next esoteric debate. Dugu Zhantian took on an imposing stance, and said so. Shui Fan only smiled. Ling Wuchang's killing intent never faltered. It was clear as day that no one was buying it. There were no grudges in the past esoteric debates because the 7 houses kept appearances. While this time, Regent Estate killed the one Shui Fan cared about the most, Shui Ningxiang, and the man toppled their future, along with 3 other dragons. Who the hell would wait 100 years to settle that kind of a bloody score? At least they were wise enough to let the matter slide for now, since Dugu Zhantian said it. Even if there was no verbal confirmation, but then a brash voice resounded. "Regent Estate, listen up. From this very moment, the Luo clan and you are now mortal enemies." The crowd was in complete shock. Luo clan simply got up and broke all pretenses, falling out with the Regent Estate in the open as well as in the dark. What came next was the worst outcome: war. To a clan having only 1 Radiant stage expert, it meant death. People whipped their heads to see who was the ignorant buffoon spouting such words. What came into view was the face of a dignified youth. Luo clan's young master, Luo Yuhai. Long Yifi, Xie Xiaofeng and grandmother's eyes shrank, giving desperate signals to Shui Fan with their eyes. Luo clan going to war meant dragging them into it as well. Since they were allies, there was no hope for victory at this point. She wanted to comfort him and mend his heart, but Shui Fan would rather face it alone. He was never one to open up to anyone, choosing to bear the pain by himself, becoming forever a solitary steward. The pain in Luo Yunchang only grew as her mind wandered. The others sighed, watching over Shui Fan's door along with their young miss. Chapter 339 Ning'er's Hope. Chapter 339 Ning'er's Hope. Elite Coder. The sun fell and rose, and yet people stood still outside Shui Fan's door, listening to the howling growing hoarse into the night. When they finally stopped, Luo Yuchang stood with red eyes before the door, with salty tears streaming down her cheeks. "Young miss, Pavilion Lord Long and the others have come." Captain Peng bowed. Luo Yuchang frowned. They would usually send someone over, not come in person. Why at this time? Luo Yunchang merely glanced at Elderly, who had his eyes closed next to her, and she knew. Humph, what noble houses! They're all clinging to another's power! Because Li Jingtian's display of power yesterday shocked them all, Veiled Dragon Pavilion, Sword Marquise Abode and Drifting Flowers edifices found the Luo clan to be on the same footing as them, if not higher. That demanded a certain amount of respect. So they lowered themselves by coming in person, otherwise they wouldn't be caught dead going to a third-rate clan even at Shui Fan's urging. "Captain Pang, show them in." Luo Yunchang held her head high, benefiting from their newfound status. Captain Pang bowed. "Understood." Captain Peng soon arrived with the 3 house lords and their entourage. Luo Yunchang bent her waist slightly in greeting. House lords, please forgive me for not welcoming you in person. No need, no need. How is Steward Zhua? Grandmother didn't care at all, only eager to know about his situation. Luo Yunchang sighed as she glanced at the sealed door. This bothers me as well. He's been cooped up for an entire day while I am here by myself with worry. The 3 house lords were startled, but then saw Mad Dipper guarding the door with closed eyes. The 3 greeted. Hello, elderly. But Li Jingtian was quite the stuck-up, not even sparing them a wink. The house lords shook their heads, while the ones behind them gasped, now that's a damn expert right there. He's so cool to act all self-important and rude to even the noble house lords. Yesterday's event was yet to fully sink in. A man of such power was willing to listen to Zhuafan's every word. Long Jiu, Long Kui, and the rest knew Zhuafan fairly well, and saw his potential before anyone else. Watching him take decisive steps till today, when he could contest with the powers of Tianyu, left them sighing. Xie Tianshang's eyes were blazing, thirsting for something. As a martial fanatic no less driven than Li Jingtian, he understood that to make someone like them listen to orders required only one thing. Power. The fiendish Mad Dipper following Zhuafan's every word showed Zhuafan had the power to make him submit. Xie Tianshang's respect for the steward shot through the roof then, and there, bordering on worship. The house lords looked at each other, but only grandmother spoke. Young Miss Luo, would it be possible to see Steward Zhua? We have matters to discuss. I'm afraid not. It's best that we wait for him to calm down and rest. I will relay your message when he comes out. Luo Yunchang glanced at the door with a shake of her head. The 3 frowned when Zhuafan was off doing God knows what. They had no choice but to discuss things with this lass. Now that the man of the house was back, of course they'd only want to see him. Now more than ever, when it concerns the safety of their houses. How could they simply leave it in the hands of a girl? But looking at Mad Dipper, they didn't say anything. With that fiend watching the door, they won't even get to touch it. As the 3 house lords were internally debating, a white figure walked out from behind. Chu Qingqing. Edifice Lord Chu, what are you doing? Luo Yunchang frowned seeing her going for the door. Chu Qingqing rested her dainty hand on it and said, This is between me and him. I ask that young Miss Luo does not interfere. And then she continued walking. To Luo Yunchang's distress, Luo Yunchang couldn't stop her, but a thick arm blocked her advance. Li Jingtian's eyes were still closed, but his voice was firm. Steward Zhua needs rest. Without his explicit approval, you can't go in. Or would you like me to stop you even if I have to pick on the weak? Everyone shivered. None saw it coming. That the great Mad Dipper Li Jingtian would be so heavy-handed with a junior. He was just like a guard to a vault, leaving no room for negotiation. This also proved his loyalty towards Zhuafan and earned the others' envy. Just what did Zhuafan do to get this fiend on his side? And such a devoted one too. Chu Qingqing didn't push the issue, knowing she was beaten, and shouted instead. Zhuafan, I need to talk to you. Get out and stop hiding like a coward. SSS. Gasps all around. Zhuafan wasn't the same person from yesterday. He had an invincible bodyguard. Not to mention he was currently unstable. Getting him pissed off was the last thing on anyone's mind. It was just yesterday when, after getting consumed by rage, he had declared war with the Regent estate. He might even attack them if he was angry enough, and none of them could fight off Li Jingtian. If Zhuafan gave in to his demonic side, there was quite a high possibility of suffering untold cruelty. They just bore witness to last month. Nobody wished to be the spark that lit that keg. They were all tense, watching the door nervously, but what they received was total silence. Only 15 minutes later, a hoarse voice came. Elderly, let them in. All right. Li Jingtian nodded and withdrew his hand. The people followed Chu Qingqing in to see a shocking situation. Chu Qingqing and Luo Yunchang's eyes went red. A white-haired man sat leaning on the bed, his clothes a mess, his hair thatched, and his eyes red and lifeless. His hand held a censer releasing a pure light. He was and wasn't Zhuafan. How did he end up like this, though? Brother Zhua, Luo Yunhai cried, but Zhuafan didn't reply. His dead eyes stared at the floor. After a long time, his muttering came. Sorry everyone, if you came because of the declaration of war, you can return. Yuhai is young, but he is our future clan head. His words are law. The Luo clan will be fighting Regent Estate. But it's up to you if you wish to join. Stammering, the House Lords knew Zhuofan had received a devastating blow to have a mental breakdown. He looked anything but capable of taking decisions. He was like those fanatic people hellbent on revenge, willing to be torn apart as long as they could bite into the enemy's flesh. That's too rash. They saw Zhuofan dead and cold like a block of ice. He was a pragmatic and cunning monster devoid of emotion. But look at him now that he was lost to his emotions. He had sacrificed everything and was reduced to this weak state. Intense emotions were cruel. They cut like a sharp blade and reduced even the strongest to an empty husk. Sighing, they shook their heads with regret. But some girls were overwhelmed with affection and pity. This was a true man, one that would risk his all for a woman. But because of the cold demeanor he usually displayed, no one saw what lay buried in his heart. Steward Zhua, don't be so down. You can't let emotions cloud your judgment in dealing with the Regent Estate. Grandmother said in all sincerity. Zhuofan merely gave a mocking laughter. Chu Qingqing went to him and pulled his hand. Come with me. No one understood what was happening. Zhuofan was the same, but had no mind to care. Following her like a walking corpse, they were soon gone from everyone's sight. An hour later, Chu Qingqing brought him to Drifting Flowers Edifice's location in Dragon Cloud City. To her room. Zhuofan snorted. Edifice Lord Chu, why have you brought me here? You don't intend to deepen our feelings, are you? I am not in. His voice trailed off as he noticed the girl on the bed. She was fair, young and naive looking. Xuaningxiang, but she didn't look dead at all, merely sleeping. Ning'er's body. How? Zhuofan watched closely, and she looked just like a sleeping, living person. Frowning, Zhuofan noticed the shining jewel in her mouth. Anchoring soul bead! Zhuofan cried out in joy. This Ning'er can be saved. Chapter 340 T's You I Want. Chapter 340 It's You I Want. Elite Coder. 9th grade spiritual weapon anchoring soul bead. It was an astonishing treasure for soul defense never seen before in Tianyu. It was unique. A defensive treasure everyone was willing to die for. When Radiant Stage and above experts fought, the emphasis shifted towards the soul. And with the anchoring soul bead, one's soul was safe and sound. It even had the miraculous ability to simulate one's essence when their soul was gravely damaged. With Xuaningxiang's essence stolen for 3 days, she had collapsed. It was the strength of her soul that waned, unable to support her consciousness. In fact, her soul had yet to fully scatter. Back then, if she had the anchoring soul bead, then her life would have been saved, and with the help of some medicine, she would regain her essence to connect with her soul and regain her consciousness. This was the only way to recover. Looking at her sleeping face, it was clear that she was saved in the nick of time. Zhuofan was overjoyed. Edifice Lord Chu, then dash. Call me Qingqing. Glaring at him, Chu Qingqing snapped, but then her eyes bloomed with joy. Now you can no longer be depressed. Flushing, Zhuofan scratched his pale face awkwardly and switched topics. Right, where did you get the 9th grade spiritual weapon, anchoring soul bead? Was Drifting Flowers Edifices hiding it? Of course. We may not be the strongest of the houses, but our treasury has filled over the last 1,000 of years. Is it that strange? Did you think we only had Bodhi root? Chu Qingqing held her head high like a proud lady. The powerful image left even Zhuofan speechless, but Zhuofan was unable to see the sorrow hidden in her eyes. Gasping, Zhuofan said, Now we just have to find some ingredients to heal her mind and Ning'er will wake up. Do you know where to find them? Chu Qingqing smiled. Zhuofan shook his head and shrugged, but his mind was set. No, but with Ning'er's soul affixed, we have the time to look for them. I will even search outside Tianyu's borders if I have to. Chu Qingqing looked at the sleeping Xuaningxiang with envy. He will do anything for her. But what will he do for me? Chu Qingqing said. Zhuofan, what were you trying to say? I want to thank you. Zhuofan looked at her oddly. Chu Qingqing smiled. That's it. How are you going to thank me? How do you want me to? Zhua Fan scratched his white hair. Clueless Chu Qingqing grinned. First close your eyes. Eh? Zhua Fan looked at her oddly, but then he saw the glare in her eyes and closed them on the spot. What's she planning? Chu Qingqing drew near Zhua Fan and pecked his cheek, shivering. Zhua Fan was about to open his eyes but only heard Chu Qingqing's soft voice in his ear. Don't look! Zhua Fan snapped his eyes tighter than before with a graceful smile. Chu Qingqing rested her head on his shoulder and whispered, Hold me. Zhua Fan's heart thumped, freezing for a moment, but he did embrace her lovely body in the end, held close to his chest. Chu Qingqing's soft and peaceful voice came. I want to go back to the time we spent in the rundown house in Drifting Flowers City, just the two of us. Zhua Fan, you are not allowed to think about other girls at this moment, even Ning'er. Zhua Fan shuddered, and bobbed his head without realizing thus. The two held each other with closed eyes, as their mind drifted to those peaceful days after a long time. Chu Qingqing opened her eyes and flicked his forehead with a smile. Now you can open them. Zhua Fan showed a pair of dazed eyes. Upon seeing the perfect beauty in front of him, his heart felt lost. He didn't want to wake up as his hands still held her delicate waist for a long time. Boring holes into him with her eyes, Chu Qingqing giggled. What's wrong? Are you regretting it now? Too late. That's the last time. From now on we are mere associates. But since when have I become despicable? Zhua Fan shook his head. Chu Qingqing said. Zhua Fan, you should go back. Perhaps you will soon find the way to save Ning'er. Zhua Fan looked at her puzzled. What's up with her? Being so mysterious all of a sudden. And you need 9th grade ingredients to heal a soul. How can it be so easy? Or is it her way of telling me to shoo off? Probably. Since she dragged me here and also the one to initiate the kiss, kicking me out could only be her as well. Really, unlike men, women make no sense at all. Zhua Fan shook his head and sighed. Then, Qingqing, goodbye. Zhua Fan walked out. Chu Qingqing watched him go with glistening tears falling down. Whoosh. A shadow landed behind Chu Qingqing. Girl, remember our deal. When she wakes up, everyone and everything here will no longer concern you. I know. I'm fine as long as I could see him. Chu Qingqing bit her lip. The shadow vanished once more. Zhua Fan was walking down the street, his mind playing Chu Qingqing's odd words over and over again. Just then, a whisper sounded in his ear. Kid, if you want to save the girl, come 50 miles south of the city, in the forest. Startled, Zhua Fan released his divine sense but couldn't sense anything. His discerning field was so strong that he could even detect a radiant stage expert. But how was it that he couldn't find a trace of that voice? What kind of power is that? Recalling Chu Qingqing's odd behavior, Zhua Fan still couldn't make sense of it. His only choice was to go south of the city and see for himself with how strong this man was. Not even Li Jingtian could stop him. Since nothing could guarantee his safety, he might as well go and see what tricks were being played on him. 4 hours later, Zhua Fan arrived. But what he saw were just trees and more trees. Just then, an eerie voice came from behind. He, you came! Zhua Fan whipped his head back to see a gray shadow floating and cried. Above Radiant Stage, the ethereal stage! Yes, the ethereal stage. Only this stage allowed one's soul to leave their body. Even if the body died, the soul could linger on. It was a stage attained only by those who cultivated their soul to perfection. The Radiant Stage employed mere parlor tricks when it came to a soul's power, while only an ethereal stage expert could bring out its full potential. When a soul left the body, its attacks would only be soul-based. And their power was at a level no Radiant Stage soul could survive. They'd fall the same way as if being killed with intent. One could go as far as to say no Radiant Stage expert could take even a finger from this shadow. Because his finger would pierce your soul dead without a way to focus one's soul to attack. The flesh could be as invincible as you want, but it wouldn't pose the slightest problem for an ethereal stage expert. Even if Huangpu Qingtian, the peak of body cultivation, might have reached the peak of Radiant Stage, he'd still be a mere ant before an ethereal stage expert. The gap between the two stages was a gaping abyss. It was why many people were stuck at peak Radiant Stage and were unable to advance. It was also why for the past 1,000 years Tianyu had never had an ethereal stage expert. As one transitioned from body to soul, the quality jumped, and the gulf widened. But Zhuo Fan couldn't understand why an ethereal stage expert would appear here all of a sudden. The shadow cackled, knowing his thoughts. Hi, Zhuo Fan, it's you I want. Now let's talk terms. Chapter 341 Please Let Go. Chapter 341 Please Let Go. Elite Coder. Who are you? Zhuo Fan asked the shadow in a cold tone. After another cackle, the shadow's reply was, Hi, where are my manners? I am Demon Scheming Sect Leader, Xia Wuyue. One of the Empire's 3 guardian sects, Demon Scheming Sect? He had heard of them as protectors of Tianyu from invasions, yet they wouldn't meddle in Tianyu's internal affairs. Not even when Gu Santong brought the imperial family to the brink of annihilation 300 years ago did they interfere. But now, the Demon Scheming Sect leader showed himself here to see him of all people. This had him second-guessing. What do you need me for? Hi, didn't I tell you? It's you I want. All that's left to settle is your price. The shadow cackled, frowning. Zhuo Fan understood. The man wanted him on his side. But why? The sect leaders disdain worldly affairs, so how did he know about him while also willing to travel leagues to get him? The shadow easily picked up on his conundrum. You don't have to be so suspicious. I never knew about you and only came this time to get Tianyu's #1 genius, Huang Puqin Tian. But you, kid, are far better. The genius of the millennium that is rarely seen even in my sect. Who knew there'd be an even more outstanding genius out there? Your presence made me give up on him and choose you instead. Hi, you should be honored. By putting your life on the line and defeating a far greater opponent, you are blessed with the fortune of catching my attention. Humph, how smug. Zhuo Fan snorted. Was there a sect in the mortal domain capable of catching the eye of this grand demonic emperor? He didn't feel a hint of honor even when some sect leader came to see him. It was all in the sect leader's head, thinking he was so great, superfluous. Seeing Zhuo Fan's contempt on his lips, the shadow laughed. Ha, good, great even. I like brash guys like you the most, like a true king. Then let's talk business. In my capacity as Demon Scheming Sect leader, I invite you to join my sect. State your terms, but let's get one thing straight. If there's anything out there I can have, I'd rather see it destroyed. We're both demonic cultivators, looking out only for ourselves. I understand it perfectly, but there's something I have to finish here before I can leave. The Luo clan? Who knew a demonic cultivator could be so loyal? It won't matter. I'll give you 3 years to settle your affairs and then I will take you with me. It should be enough for you to get everything in order. If there's anything you need, I will help you as much as I can. Xia Wuyue's proposal was quite tempting. It was the same as Luo clan getting the Demon Scheming Sect behind it. Not even the imperial family would dare touch them after that. The situation right now was highly volatile and this sudden arrival of a powerful backer was heaven sent, but the expert negotiator Zhuo Fan didn't let it show and sighed. I'll need time to consider. Xia Wuyue faltered a second. Consider my ass. For my Demon Scheming Sect to have your back is the greatest fortune of your life. You should be damn grateful. What's with that long face? As if you're the one losing. Noticing him playing the loser, Xia Wuyue's mouth twitched. If he were back in the sect, any elder that would have spoken to him like that would receive a beating to make them forget where they were. Hadn't he dumped those 4 pricks in Thunderswarm Mountain just the same? But when facing Zhuo Fan's cunning nature, he both loved and hated it. He had looked down on Zhuo Fan as if he didn't have a scheming bone in his back, but at this point, he had accepted him without question. Ha, fine. I like your greed. The stronger you are, the greedier you can be. What I said just now was a welcoming gift to the sect, not a term. Now speak what you want. Zhuo Fan smiled. Don't you know already? Save that girl? Xia Wuyue laughed. Zhuo Fan, I know you're vile and insidious from how sinisterly you tormented Huang Puqin Tian and the other 3. Who knew you still had a soft spot? But I hope you won't enter the sect with such a weakness. We, demonic cultivators, are dead the instant we let emotions take hold. I don't want to destroy you, nor see the sect fall. Have I made myself clear? Xiaoyue treated him with ridicule at first, but as they talked, he grew colder, finishing with a warning. Xuefan knew it to be a rule of the sect, to not get attached. He nodded and said, I know it far better than you do. This will be the first and last time. All right then. Whoosh! With a pop, a bright pill shot for Xuefan. Xuefan caught it and looked at it in shock. 9th grade pill, soul returning pill. Indeed. You have good eyes. I wasn't wrong about you. Xiaoyue continued. The soul returning pill can heal wounds of the soul, strengthen the essence, and protect the mind. To an ethereal stage cultivator, it is like a second life, very sought after. Even I have only one pill of this kind. But I will give it to you in good faith. I hope that you will live up to my expectations and return this investment. The shadow was gone with these last words, leaving Xuefan staring at the shiny pill as hope burned in his eyes. Taking a deep breath, Xuefan clenched the pill and ran for Drifting Flowers edifices. The disciples there watched in shock as he stormed into Chu Qingqing's chamber. What, you already found a way to save Ning'er? Chu Qingqing said, seeing Xuefan gasping. Xuefan frowned. Did you know Xiaoyue would come for me? Who's that? Chu Qingqing's eyes trembled. Xuefan's eyes searched her face for any clues. Xiaoyue is the demon-scheming sect leader. You don't know him? Then why were you so sure I'd have a way to save Ning'er? Someone told me without leaving their name. So don't ask? Chu Qingqing smiled. All that matters is that Ning'er will be saved. Right? Sizing her for a while, Xuefan nodded. You're right. As long as Ning'er lives, I'd even sell my body, ha ha ha. Laughing, Xuefan went to Xue Ningxiang on the bed. He took the anchoring soul bead out, then returned her essence before feeding her. The soul-returning pill ripples passed all over Ning'er's body, and the spiritual energy also gathered within her in waves, reshaping her soul. Xuefan sighed, gratified Ning'er would be alright soon. Yet in his moment of joy, he didn't notice Chu Qingqing staring at him with deep yearning. Qingqing, send someone for Ning'er's clan? She'll soon wake up and would like to see her family. Xuefan said, but never looked away from Xue Ningxiang. Chu Qingqing found it difficult to swallow the bitterness as she nodded. All right. I'll send someone now. You are so thoughtful. Those words contained deep sarcasm as well, but they shot way over Xuefan's head, deeply moved by Xue Ningxiang's recovery as he only nodded, and a wide smile spread to his ears. Chu Qingqing sighed. 15 minutes later, the Xue clan came as well as Xie Tianyang, looking distressed. Everyone looked at Ning'er with tears flowing. They had heard of the possibility of saving Ning'er, but no one believed it. How could one come back after losing their essence? When Chu Qingqing said she had to take her body, they didn't refuse, thinking all would be for naught. But here she was, dead for a month now, yet coming back to the living. Everyone was overjoyed. Ning'er was their darling. Her survival was their greatest joy. Xuefan was also overcome with emotion for the first time in his 2 lives, and a genuine smile formed on his lips. Xue Dingtian turned to him and said after hesitating, Steward Xue, may I have a word with you? Xuefan didn't understand. But he followed after Ning'er's grandfather. The two only got 10 meters from the room, when Xue Dingtian kneeled before Xuefan, his tears flowing in rivers. Steward Xue, please let go. Xuefan was stunned and baffled seeing the old man do this. What does he mean? Xue Ningxiang jerked in fear, looking at the crystal-clear eyes, unmarred by the ugliness of the world. Xuefan grinned. He knew he had made the right choice and said, I eat people and even hurt you. Why did you hurt me? Ning'er trembled. She ducked behind Xue Dingtian, peeking at the white-haired Xuefan like a startled kitty. Xuefan looked at her with tenderness, but his mouth said, Bad men hurt people. Do I even need a reason? So miss, for your own sake, you should stay far away from me. Xuefan then walked outside sighing, Goodbye, Ning'er. They watched his solitary figure leave, filled with admiration. He was a true hero to own up to his actions and make prompt decisions. They didn't want Ning'er to be by his side and suffer. But they had to admit, Fan was a reliable man. Ning'er saw him go, and for some odd reason she felt pain in her chest. Why does my heart ache when I see this bad man? Hey, bad men only know how to cause pain, Ning'er. Just forget it. Tianyang gave a rushed explanation. This was for the best. With Fan letting her go, Ning'er could now return to living a normal life. If the two got close again, Tianyang wasn't afraid of being smacked around, but he could never stand for Ning'er being used again and turning expendable simply to constrict Fan. Ning'er nodded, the passing Fan already forgotten as she laughed along with her relatives. Fan stood outside and listened to the laughter. He closed his eyes, neither happy nor sad. This is for the best. An hour later, Tianyang came out of the room and sighed at the bleak figure. Thank you? What thanks? We had the same intentions, right? Fan looked ahead as he said, nodding. Tianyang walked before Fan and placed 2 items in his hand. Fan trembled, sighing. Tianyang looked downcast. Forgive me. I shouldn't do this to a brother, but Ning'er, you want to break all ties with me? The 2 thunder rings shook in his trembling hand, nodding. Tianyang sighed. We are cut from a different cloth than you. You want to fight for supremacy in this world, while we merely drag along with our meager existence. We do not want glory, nor do we want you to disturb our peaceful life. I have spoken with the Shui clan. Tomorrow, I will take them to a remote place in the mountains and never come down. I no longer want to be Sword Marquis Abode's second young master. Few are like you, to sacrifice so much for another. Tightening his hand, Fan said evenly, I hope you live a happy and peaceful life. I wish you the same, for one day to lord over all and be remembered for eternity. Grinning, Tianyang said, All right, let me give one last hug to the man who I shared life and death with. After we part here, we will become total strangers. Tianyang squeezed Fan into a bear hug as Fan just stood there. Tianyang then returned back into the room. Neither looked at each other, with all ties broken. Fan, did Tianyang give you the rings? Chu Qingqing asked, nodding. Fan looked at the flickering thunder rings in his palm with pain. Qingqing, you were right. A cold and heartless man like me doesn't deserve a woman's love nor to have a sworn brother. I am destined for loneliness. No. Chu Qingqing was about to explain, but Fan tightened his fist and threw the rings as his gaze steeled. From this moment on, my eyes shall only have the world in sight. Fan walked home, his eyes no longer hesitant. Chu Qingqing saw where the rings fell and sighed, seeing Fan's cold back. Did you know you're not at all lonely? Chu Qingqing flew towards the rings. Chapter 343 The Grand Scheme of Things. Chapter 343 The Grand Scheme of Things. Elite Coder. Fan returned to the Luo clan in the evening. The whole day had passed, yet grandmother and her other 2 allies remained, waiting for his return. Seeing them, Fan washed away any dejection he had and cupped his hands. House lords, I had some matters to tend to. But we can talk now since they are over. Everyone looked amazed as Fan. Chu Qingqing dragged away with her, and the one that had returned were totally different. He was back to his swift and decisive self, without a hint of grief. What's going on? What did Chu Qingqing do to get him back? The Luo clansmen saw him looking thin, but his bright eyes let them know that he had pushed through the haze. They were overjoyed, Luo Yunchang especially. She didn't get along with Chu Qingqing, but she was at least grateful the woman got her Fan back to his normal self. Fan, why you had me worried sick? Luo Yunchang came to him in tears. Fan smiled. It's all in the past. Fan turned to the 3 houses. People, I know what's on your mind. You fear that our declaration of war was impulsive and would ruin everything. But I will tell you that the faster we dispense with this charade with Regent Estate, the faster we can grow. They were all startled. The 7 houses were at peace until now, all because of pretense. But once the war broke out, the dead would pile up just like they did 1,000 years ago. Their houses were in danger of annihilation. How were they going to grow after that? Fan had a cryptic smile and replied to their thoughts. In fact, the world hasn't really changed. War and peace shift places just like yin and yang. War does not mean the absence of peace or suffering. It all moves according to the bigger picture. The situation will change after the esoteric debate. You need to consider what happened in the esoteric debate, and the changes in our enemies. The best choice right now is to fight Regent Estate. They all entered deep thought, mulling over his words. Then, the three House Lords' eyes brightened and they nodded. I see. Steward Zhua wants to turn it into a three-way confrontation. But where do we find the power to fight Regent Estate to a draw? Grandmother asked. Shuafan smiled. Do you remember my words? In 10 years you will see a brand new Luo clan. But I no longer need those years, as I can show you a powerful ally in the form of the Luo clan already. Don't worry, we will restrict the Regent Estate without a doubt. The House Lords found it hard to believe Shuafan's bold proclamations. He just said that the Luo clan had the power to challenge Regent Estate, alone. But how? 8 years couldn't compare to 1,000 years' legacy. It was normal for Shuafan to create miracles, but to grow a clan to such a height so fast was impossible. But when they looked at Li Jingtian, they felt quiet. Was there something he couldn't do after he turned a peak radiant stage expert into an elder? They had now changed their thinking and were looking forward to seeing how big of a shock would the Luo clan give the next time they appeared along with their entire might. The three House Lords sighed. Shuafan is truly astonishing. Ha ha ha, since Steward Zhua is certain of success, we will make preparations and move according to your instructions. I have to admit, when I saw Steward Zhua taken over by rage, I never expected you'd still be capable of deep thinking. I am in awe. Grandmother praised. Shuafan returned her gesture. Grandmother exaggerates. The three houses took their leave. Besides the three House Lords, everyone else was in the dark about what just happened. Father, why didn't I understand a thing you guys talked about? Long Xingyun asked. Long Yifi smiled as he lifted his head in pride. Boy, this concerns the grand scheme of things. If you could understand it, you'd have been the next House Lord by now. Long Xingyun was shocked. It contains such profound topics? That means Shuafan could understand it while we had to be reminded. Won't that mean Shuafan is a truly rare genius? I can't help but wonder where he comes from. Such a young lad with such a wide gaze that not even we can match. No wonder Ling Wuchang fell for his handiwork. Long Yifi sighed in amazement. Long Xingyun had admiration as well. They were peers, yet Shuafan was far stronger than any of them. After the houses left, Luo Yuhai asked, Brother Zhua, I made the declaration of war yesterday. I was overcome by anger from their insidious nature in dealing with you. But I had never imagined it would have so many implications. Ha ha ha, if you knew, you'd already be clan head. Shuafan then turned serious. Yuhai, following Dugujantian has sharpened your senses and familiarized you with war tactics, all for this day. But this has only made you a talented general and not good enough to take on the clan's burdens. This is the perfect chance to teach you a monarch's methods and the way to infer the bigger picture from small events. Luo Yuhai was serious as he nodded in glee. It was the first time Shuafan was going to teach him in person. The others looked lost. The past Shuafan would cook up the plans and then send others to do the dirty work. Like he did with Luo Yunhai's education, leaving it in another's hands. Now that he was going to involve himself in teaching the young clan head, everyone was excited. Shuafan was known for his treachery and even played Ling Wuchang, the unwanted contriver, like a fiddle. His teachings couldn't be average. How were they supposed to know that Shuafan had struck a deal with Xia Weiyue for 3 years? If he didn't get Luo Yuhai to mature fast enough, the instant he left, Luo clan would be met with disaster. It was the same as sending them to the slaughter. How could he leave with a peace of mind? So, he sped things up a little. Yuhai, do you know who our former allies, backers, and enemies were? Shuafan asked. Luo Yuhai considered. The allies were Drifting Flowers Edifices, Sword Marquis Abode, and Veiled Dragon Pavilion. The backers are the Imperial Family and Marshal Dugu, while the enemies are Regent Estate and the rest of the houses. And now? Shuafan followed Luo Yunhai's eyes flashed with uncertainty. Now isn't it the same? No, it changed. Shuafan turned serious. Yuhai, you have to keep in mind that every man looks after himself. Allies and enemies are all but fleeting. The one true reason that connects everyone together in this tangled web is interest. Yin and Yang switch places, they suppress each other, then switch again. The same transformation happens with enemies and allies alike. If you understand the grand design, you will never fail. This is the way of inferring the big picture from the events around us. To become a clan head, you must also grasp it. Luo Yuhai gasped and nodded. Then, let us begin, Zhou Fan said. Speaking of the esoteric debate this time, Marshal Dugu and the imperial family were our backers before it started. Because our interests aligned, to fight Regent Estate. But after the esoteric debate, through luck or otherwise, I received the dragon's soul, becoming the imperial family's enemy. No imperial family would allow those bearing the dragon vein's soul, and heaven's blessing, swagger their way through the nation and shake its foundations. Thus our enemies changed. Fan Qiubai and Marshal Dugu's loyalties lie with the imperial family. They were friendly before but have now shifted to neutrality, with a high chance of becoming enemies at any given moment. We can't overlook them. Luo Yuhai never imagined that in just 2 short days his cherished godfather would become his enemy. It was too much to bear regardless of his inner turmoil, Zhou Fan's platitude prattled on. As for the Regent Estate, they remain our enemies. But now we have the right to become their enemies as well. Because we lost the imperial family's support, the Regent Estate can come at us whenever they want and stomp us into the ground. Of course, we do not need to fear them. But once the war starts, both clans will incur heavy losses and neither wants to let another faction reap from their misfortune. For this reason, we declared war on them, and now all that remains is to think of a way to let them bask in our power. They are no fools and know a war would bring too many losses, so they will refrain from engaging in it. This way, we restrict each other. While the Emperor will take notice of our power as well and won't intervene either, lest he'd like to let the Regent Estate pick us both off. This way, we become one of the 3 major players in Tianyu, with either side winning or losing. The court, including Zhuge Changfeng, Dugu Zhantian and the Emperor, has already been one such player, bringing balance to the equation. This would keep us safe for a while. All that's left is to wait for a blind schmuck to lift the deadlock, and then we would come down hard to reap the world for ourselves. Everyone was slack-jawed. They never imagined that Zhou Fan had such a comprehensive understanding of the powers that be and even had the same objective as the Regent Estate, the world. This had never happened in the history of the Luo clan. They were a mere third-rate clan with petty ambitions, wanting nothing more than to go down at peace. Zhou Fan laughed at their thoughts. Ha ha ha, in this world, the weak will be pushed around while the strong fight for greed. There's no such thing as a man or clan of integrity in this world. If you want peaceful days, then get strong until no one can ever catch up to you. I do not want to see those around me suffer the same disaster as Ning'er. Zhou Fan sighed. They hesitated, but soon determination shined in their eyes. Isn't it merely stealing the world? With you, Steward Zhou, it's a done deal. As their power grew, Zhou Fan made sure to bring the Luo clan's ambition to a more appropriate level. Chapter 344 Resolute. Chapter 344 Resolute. After Zhou Fan's analysis, the Luo clan now understood what to do next. Luo Yuhai was feeling hurt, but the light in his eyes grew stauncher at dawn break. People left Dragon Cloud City. The esoteric debate this time was particularly cruel and devastating, but no one expected for a clan to rise after 1,000 years and kill its way to the same footing as the 7 houses. Luo clan's legend spread like wildfire throughout the Tianyu Empire. Luo clan and its allies said their goodbyes at the gates, then went home. Luo clan was getting ready for its big reveal into the limelight, to fight on equal footing with the true powers. Their allies had already invited their venerables to fight alongside the Luo clan. Now that they were in the same boat, they had one course of action. Because when the Luo clan fell, Regent Estate would turn to them. They were backed into a corner. Why else would they accept following this man after finding out that Zhou Fan had just become the imperial family's enemy number 1? Now they will go along for the ride called Zhou Fan. They will thrive and fall together. Neither one could abandon the other. Dugu Zhantian patted Luo Yunhai's shoulder with a hard face. Yuhai, won't you join your godfather in battle instead? Godfather, you still have the other 4 to help you, but I am the Luo clan's only heir. I can only go with my clan. Please forgive me, Godfather. Luo Yuhai nodded. Dugu Zhantian sighed. All right, Yuhai, you've grown and are responsible now. A true soldier from my army. Godfather, Luo Yuhai interrupted. Thank you for your guidance these past 5 years. If the day ever comes when we cross swords, I ask that Godfather shows no mercy, as neither shall I. The 4 tigers of Tianyu jerked. Why was their younger brother being so heartless? But Dugu Zhantian's eyes shrank and he sighed. It seems you already know the situation. That brat must have told you. But he is he and you are you. As long as the Luo clan has him. Godfather, without him there wouldn't be a Luo clan, nor the relation we have today. You have taught me loyalty, so how could I betray him? Moreover, he is the pillar of the Luo clan. A man does not clip his own wings, so how can I, a warrior, make the folly of cutting off my arms? Dugu Zhantian nodded and laughed. You are indeed my godson, both righteous and loyal. It will be my pride and joy to meet you on the field. Dugu Zhantian smiled and turned. Yuhai, we may be on opposite sides, but our bond will never change. Take care, Godfather. Luo Yuhai watched the imposing back and banged his head on the pavement 3 times. As for the 4 tigers, they were totally lost. What is going on? Why are they suddenly saying goodbyes? Not far, Chu Qingqing had Luo Yuchang called to the side. Young Miss Luo, Zhuofan will be in your care. That has never changed. What, should he be in your care? Luo Yunchang pouted, showing her hostility. She had no clue what Chu Qingqing did to get him out of his shell, but was still grateful. That didn't mean she was about to step back from fighting over her man. Chu Qingqing smiled. I mean that you should take great care of his heart. Help him understand this world. He isn't alone. Chu Qingqing then pushed a flickering ring into her hand and left. Luo Yunchang was shocked. It was a thunder ring like Zhuofan was wearing. How did she get it? Zhuofan only made 3, with 2 given to Shui Ningxiang and Xia Tianyang. Does that mean there was a 4th? And given to Chu Qingqing? Why didn't I get one? Luo Yunchang was annoyed as she ran to Zhuofan. She showed the thunder ring and snapped. Zhuofan, what's the meaning of this? Are you giving everyone gifts now? What about me? Where did you get this ring? Zhuofan squinted in a cold tone. Luo Yunchang let out a shrill cry from fright. Then she lowered her head and mumbled. Edifice Lord Chu just gave it to me, saying I need to look after you. Throw it away! Zhuofan cut her off. Ning'er and Xie Tianyang have broken ties with me. I don't need these baubles anymore. Zhuofan set out with the rest of the Luo clan. Captain Peng rushed to Luo Yunchang as her guard trembling. Luo Yunchang now understood Chu Qingqing's meaning. Xie Tianyang and Ning'er broke it off with Zhuofan. She knew how close the 3 of them were. For a lone wolf like Zhuofan, it was a rare friendship, but now the 2 had left him, and he had truly become alone. Luo Yunchang looked at the thunder ring and put it on as the light in her eyes changed. In a lush forest, a black-clothed man looked towards the leaving Luo clan in the distance with a savage glint. Upon closer look, one would recognize him to belong to Hell Valley. Wretched Luo clan, you actually have a peak radiant expert. At this rate, we will never be able to deal with them. The 5th elder gnashed his teeth. Yuanshan's eyes were cold. 5th elder, don't let anger get to you. Even without Li Jingtian, Zhuofan still wasn't one we could handle. Have you forgotten? He actually bit Huang Puqingtian to death. Yes, with the Luo clan having Zhuofan, a cunning mind like Ling Wucheng, and a powerful expert to protect them, they have reached our level, a true colossus. Hell Valley alone can no longer contend with them. Even worse, if we don't handle it right, we will be eaten whole and our house razed. Just then, another black robe fluttered over, but the owner had a young voice. Compared to all the old guys here, it made quite an odd contrast. 5th elder mocked. Yu Ming, you're becoming more and more cocky. You dare interrupt an elder? The cowl was removed and it revealed a youth with a grave face, Yu Giki's disciple Yu Ming. Just that he had lost his cowardly nature and had gotten bolder. Instead, he looked at the elders and house lord without the slightest reaction. Yuan Shan gave him a hard look, then smiled. Grand Elder, you raised the kid well. He's starting to look like the 7th Elder. Ha ha ha, Valley Lord is exaggerating. He was the 7th Elder's disciple to begin with. I only gave him tips. It was a good decision to not let him join the esoteric debate, or he would have been another unmarked grave at the hands of that monster. Then Hell Valley would have truly lost all hope. Recalling the dreadful way Zhuofan dealt with Huang Puqin Tian, even Grand Elder shuddered. Ever since the 7th Elder's passing, all our actions have been a mess. We've suffered greatly and even ended up being used. I hope Yu Ming can assume 7th Elder's duty and assist Valley Lord in making the house thrive. As for past grievances, haha, it's best we don't mention them. Yes, Zhuofan is too much of a menace. Not even that old foxling Wuchang could handle him. Now that he has spread his wings, it will be even harder. We'd best rethink our options and take a step back. Yu Ming approved. Yuan Shan was pensive for a while before nodding, thinking back. Ever since they came upon Zhuofan, everything went south. With Zhuofan of today reaching such power, they would lose even more going against him. Yuan Shan turned to Yu Ming. Do you have a plan? Valley Lord Master once said that all machinations are revealed when looking from the outside. With the Regent Estate and Luo clan at war, it's best for us to stay clear and think of another course of action. And that would be? Yuan Shan asked, grinning. Yu Ming continued. Zhuofan and Ling Wuchang are treacherous men, each with his own devices. We won't be a match for either of them even if we join. The best choice will be to play for the future. Future? Yuan Shan asked, as did the rest. Correct. Our goal is in the imperial capital. Yu Ming spoke with confidence as they talked. They were completely oblivious to the fact that every action the houses took in Dragon Cloud City was in plain sight to two gray shadows. Xiaoyue, Jianyu is becoming more chaotic by the day. Not only the 7 houses are fighting amongst each other, even the 4 pillars and imperial family are about to step in. Can your kid survive among these errant armies? An aged voice mocked the other shadow. The only response he got was a sinister laughter. Hi, my affairs have nothing to do with geezers like you. He caught my eye and I'm sure he won't fail me. After 3 years, I'll return and you will face humiliation. Oh, are you that confident? The other sex monsters aren't any weaker, you know. Humph, a 9th grade pill for a single man. You think I'd take that gamble without some assurance? What about you then? You lent that anchoring soul bead and cheated a lady. Compared to us demonic cultivators, you, a righteous sect leader, is far more despicable. Hi. Xiaoyue laughed. The shadow snapped. Xiaoyue, if it wasn't for me giving the anchoring soul bead to maintain the girl's soul, your pill wouldn't have worked. How then would you have gotten that crafty brat? Humph, we merely cooperated and got what we wanted. What's despicable about that? True, both of us got what we wanted. But this is where our partnership ends. The next time we see each other, I won't hold back. That goes without saying. You think you and your disciples will win? Humph! The other shadow vanished with a snort. Xiaoyue cackled. Before Zhuofan, perhaps not. But the kid will join my sect and I guarantee you will even lose your shirt. Hi. Chapter 345 Master and Disciple Reunion. Chapter 345 Master and Disciple Reunion. Elite Coder. 3 months later, the Luo clan finally arrived home, to Wingei's city. As the Blackwind Mountain appeared in view, Zhuofan's heart called to it in longing. After 5 years of separation, he had gone through ecstatic and despair-filled moments during this time. And now that he had returned, he felt even more attached to this place. The word family or clan had been etched deeper into his heart. Absence only made the heart grow fonder. Steward Zhua, let me open the array and give you a proper welcome. Standing before Blackwind Mountain enveloped in thick mist, Li Jingtian laughed. Zhuofan waved him off with a hint of smile. No need. I'll do it myself. 5 years have gone by and I want to open the door myself. Li Jingtian nodded. while others watched him with warmth. Yen Fu, come! The kid had been traveling along with the Luo clan, and under constant pressure from Li Jingtian's valiant aura, he had been left a shivering mess. Yen Fu rushed before Zhuo Fan with even more respect. Steward Zhuo orders? Nothing of that sort. You will soon meet Elder Yen, master and disciple will be reunited at last. And you will become one of us now. So I will now teach you how to open the array. Watch closely. Yen Fu was excited. He will finally get to see his master, something that had only happened in his dreams so far. His heart was overwhelmed and he nodded instantly under his dazed gaze. Zhuo Fan's hand made a sign and he shouted, "Open!" The fog parted in the form of a path up Blackwind Mountain. Zhuo Fan turned with a smile. Yen Fu, this will be your home from now on. You and your master. Boom! The reverberating explosion cut Zhuo Fan's speech short. A gale kicking up dust slammed them right in the face and covered the foremost two in dust and grime, and then came the shrieks. Hi, old hag, old geezer, who do you think you are, Zhuo Fan or Li Jingtian, to dare mess with us four scheming demons? You can't handle us. See how us four will blast you to pieces. Violent Demon's familiar sneer came to Zhuo Fan, then the cheers from the other three demons. Yep, you two know nothing of how to stop us. There's nothing you can do to us. Zhuo Fan's mouth twitched, and his fist clenched. These little shits won't sit still for a second. They completely ruined one of my rare good moods. The rest sighed and felt vexed. Elder Li brought these four scheming demons 5 years back as new elders. Everyone was happy, at first, and then they got to know these pygmies just a bit better. They were outrageous, squabbling and powerful, of course, but they were nothing more than bickering children. A menace every third day and a disaster every fifth. These guys almost had the entire Blackwind Mountain running to the ground with their toying. Even after Li Jingtian's heavy-handed punishment, it only took a day after his departure for them to start cursing him, and the second day for their demonic minds to cook up new mischief. Everyone knew this was Li Jingtian cheating the four into thinking that he knew the way to control the bloodworms and make them fall in line. Or hell would have broken loose. Steward Zhuo, Yen Fu pointed at Blackwind Mountain with a sunken face, as if to say, "Why is this home of yours not one bit peaceful?" Waving him off, Zhuo Fan laughed in anger. "Calm down, I will handle it. Just ignore the little shits." Steward Zhuo, I'll go set the four shits straight." Li Jingtian ran over. Zhuo Fan waved him off with a dark face. "No need. I'll do it." Zhuo Fan stepped forward and the rest followed. Li Jingtian was snickering inside. Those four twerps will finally get what's coming for them. They all reached the peak to see holes everywhere, and even the gate blown outward and slanted, no doubt about it. Those four shits were responsible for all this. All this while the sound of explosions kept on coming from within. Shui Qingjian raved like an insane hag. You damn bastards dare break my 1,000-year-old mirror? I'll kill you! Hi, Biddy, what are you doing with a mirror when you're so old? We did you a favor. Sly Demon poked where it hurt with his mocking laughter. Shui Qingjian grew enraged in her howls. Bastards, thieves! I'll have your heads today! Qingjian, stop wasting time with them and use life and death art. Qiu Yanhai's own raving voice came. Li Jingtian paled him, and the two had sparred quite often, and he knew of the power behind that art. It could blast 10 radiant stage experts into dust on the spot. All he could do was turn tail with the two using life and death art on the four demons. They'd blow Blackwind Mountain sky high. Li Jingtian rushed. Steward Zhuo, I'll stop them. No need. A vein popped on Zhuo Fan's forehead as his finger trembled. Those four demons were wrong in the head from the start. There's no point arguing with them. But were these two so quick to lose themselves? Humph, they need to be taught a lesson. Zhuo Fan's hand signal changed, and four blissful heart-rending wails came from within, music to the ears of every Luo clansman. What's going on? My belly hadn't hurt in 5 years. What's with the sudden cramp? Violent Demon rolled around, followed by 5 others. I know, it's the bloodworms. That damn Li Jingtian is back. Sly demon, cried Shui Qingjian, and Qiu Yanhai collapsed as they cursed. Dumbass, you still don't know that the old man conned you? He is a victim too and doesn't know how to use the bloodworms. Or you'd think all the chaos you caused 5 years ago would only result in some scolding? What, he played us? Violent demon roared. Bloody bastard! That old foggy dares to play the demonic hero quartet? I'll tear him a new one if it's the last thing I do. Hold on, if he didn't do it, then why do I feel cramps all over and can't even move? Humph, morons, do you even need to ask? Who in this world has such cruel ways? Shui Qingjian was sweating and her eyes jerked in fear. The kid's back. What kid? The 4 scheming demons asked together, then a prideful voice echoed. Correct, I have returned. So listen up. Zhuofan walked into the rundown place with fire in his eyes. The 4 scheming demons wailed. A ghost. Zhuofan's face twitched, but he took it in stride. Shui Qingjian howled and begged. Steward Zhua, the 4 little shits did it. It's not us who started it. But Zhuofan walked right past them. Li Jingtian sighed. You guys, how can Steward Zhua not know that the 4 demons are behind it all? But you two should never ever think about using life and death art here. Are you planning on wiping out the Luo clan? Steward Zhua just came back and was in a rare good mood. But we were only talking about it, not meaning to use it. The old pair grew frantic and looked hurt. They now looked to see Luo Yunchang pass them. They grabbed onto their final hope. Young miss! Luo Yunchan knew their intention and nodded and gave a thumbs up. No worries, leave it to me. The two were in deep pain, but felt relief. We haven't spent all that time with the young miss for nothing. She comes through for us when it matters. In the hall, Zhuofan took the main seat and saw no one inside, not even guards. Those 6 must have scared them off. As the others came in, Zhuofan had Captain Pang look for Yen Song while Captain Pang ran along. Luo Yunchang pleaded the old couple's case. Zhuofan knew they were innocent, only incited by the pygmies. Not even he could quell his rage when dealing with those freaks, not to mention others. So with another sign, the couple was released from their torment. The 2 came to the hall and bowed to Zhuofan, giving a look of gratitude to Luo Yunchang. Luo Yunchang gave Shui Qingjian a cheering gesture. Sister, we look after each other. The females in the Luo clan were few in numbers. And with Shui Qingjian often spending time with Luo Yunchang, their age may be different, but the 2 were now practically sisters. Yen Song had heard of Yen Fu's arrival and rushed to the hall. He first bowed to Zhuofan, then looked with joy for Yen Fu. He soon found him. Disciple! Yen Song's mouth trembled from the overwhelming emotion. Yen Fu was stunned. He looked at him long and said, Why, you're my master? Yen Song slipped for a second, then smiled. Ha ha ha, of course. I took Steward Zhua's 8th grade pill and washed away the poison, making me dozens of years younger. Handsome, aren't I? I had told you many times if it weren't for training in the Rainbow Cloud Palm from a young age, I'd be an elegant and refined gentleman, wooing thousands of girls with a mere wink. See, I wasn't lying. The people let a giggle slip. It was their first time seeing their alchemy house elder boasting like that. Just like a certain vile steward they knew. Indeed, bad habits do rub off when standing so close, but Yen Fu shuddered and nodded. Yes, you really are my master. Master only boasts like that with me. That's our secret, master. Yen Fu fell to Yen Song's feet. Yen Song was tearing up too. Master and disciple, finally reunited like father and son. The rest didn't disturb them afterward. Zhuofan thought Yen Fu was too young to assume a position, so he made him an assistant. As for the 4 scheming demons, Zhuofan threw them somewhere far off, and only 3 days later was he reminded of them. He released their seal and gave them a tongue lashing. Ever since their return, under Zhuofan's tight supervision, the 4 were on their best behavior, and Blackwind Mountain finally knew peace after 5 long and nerve-wracking years. Meanwhile, Fan Qiubai and Dugu Zhantian stepped foot in the imperial capital's palace with the esoteric debates report. Chapter 346 Sun's Visit. Chapter 346 Sun's Visit. Elite Coder. Duge Zhantian and Fan Qiubai greet His Majesty. The dignified emperor sat on the golden throne as the two bowed. The emperor waved for them to get up and asked, "You two have been supervising the esoteric debate in my stead. Tell me, what has come off of it? What surprises have cropped up?" The two nodded and Fan Qiubai took the lead. "Your Majesty, of the 6 dragons that had participated, Huang Puqin Tian, Yan Bangyi, Yu Yushan and Lin Xianfeng died at Zhuofan's hands. Luo clan became the true winner." "What?" That number 1 genius in Tianyu, Huang Puqin Tian. The emperor was stunned. He had hoped for Zhuofan to mess with him, and that he only had a half chance of success. But then Zhuofan went all out and well beyond his duty, bringing him a wonderful piece of news. Regent estate and the other house's future was now snuffed in the cradle. At the very least, a monster like Huang Puqin Tian wouldn't crop up any time soon, and the Regent estate's power remained in check. Taking a deep breath to control the overwhelming excitement, the emperor asked, "Anything else?" He may have quelled his body's reaction, but his beard was swaying from glee. That alone was enough to see what a thrill this news had become. Fan Qiubai and Duge Zhantian hesitated. That was the good news, and what followed was the worst news ever. "Your Majesty, in the esoteric debate, Huang Puqin Tian revealed that he had a dragon vein soul. Even though the Regent estate talked its way out, I believe they are intent on drawing out the dragon souls from the imperial family's dragon vein and rebel." "What?" The emperor slammed the armrest, glowering. "You're saying the Regent estate has grown so bold as to go after the imperial family's dragon vein and even had someone become the master of a dragon soul? Wait, that's not right. If Huang Puqin Tian has the dragon soul, he should be under the world's protection. How can?" Fan Qiubai and Duge Zhantian sighed. "I'm afraid your Majesty's assumptions are correct. Zhuofan is a man to be reckoned with. He killed Huang Puqin Tian and subdued Dragon Vein's soul, making the world quake for 9 days. From what I saw, he is a man who can change fate." The emperor's face darkened. "You mean to tell me Zhuofan has the dragon soul and has now become a rightful king, by providence no less?" "Yes. But although he has providence and dragon soul's protection, the wielder of dragon vein ruling the lands has been foretold by the high priest since 1,000 years ago. Over these years, the parish's prediction hasn't changed. There's just one thing I am unable to clarify. If Dragon Soul's protection was providence and heaven's blessing, why did Huang Puqin Tian end up getting killed? Is this a flaw in the prediction, or Zhuofan defies the heavens themselves?" Fan Qiubai was pensive. The emperor said with cold eyes, "How did Zhuofan kill him?" "Bit him to death." Duge Zhantian reported with his head hanging. The emperor was stunned. "Bitten to death? Did he eat him? Your Majesty, is something wrong?" Fan Qiubai asked. What shocked the people was Zhuofan killing Huang Puqin Tian, with none paying attention to how he did it, but from the emperor's reaction, it seems it held a deeper meaning. The emperor continued, "What happened afterwards? What was the reaction of the houses after Regent Estate's eldest young master died? Regent Estate's hatred for Zhuofan ran bone deep, and when the kid returned to Dragon Cloud City, the 4 house lords besieged him, however." "What, you saved him?" The emperor eyed them. Fan Qiubai sighed. "Your Majesty, the kid has the dragon soul now, and sooner or later, will become a thorn in the imperial family's side. Thinking about how he has done so much for us, we couldn't just kill him ourselves. So letting the Regent estate attack him was the best conclusion. That is why Marshal Duge and myself did not interfere. However, Mad Dipper Li Jingtian did." "Mad Dipper? Wasn't he Regent Estate's venerable? He went missing 6 years ago, but why did he suddenly show up to protect Zhuofan?" The emperor frowned. Fan Qiubai shook his head. "I am not clear either. All I know is that he turned his back on the Regent Estate and sided with the Luo clan, becoming their elder. He also follows Zhuofan's orders to a fault. It was evident from Zhuofan's order to annihilate the Regent Estate. He didn't hesitate in attacking Huang Puqian and the others." "What, Regent Estate was destroyed in Dragon Cloud City?" "Of course not." Fan Qiubai replied at the emperor's shock. "If all the elders of Regent Estate died, the world would be in chaos, and that would only harm your Majesty. That is why I stepped in. But Li Jingtian was truly strong. He has already reached peak radiant stage. All I could do was fight him to a draw. I am deeply ashamed. The Emperor's eyes shrank, incapable of believing what he was hearing. Luo clan, a third-rate clan, was actually hiding an expert that could tie with a divine dragon? Doesn't that mean the Luo clan is on the same level as the 7 houses? In fact, they are now second only to Regent Estate. In less than 10 years, that wretched clan has grown so much. In less than a decade. The Emperor sighed, Fang Qiubai and Dugu Zhantian sighed as well. The events were too astonishing. Zhua Fan was incredible, capable of turning everything around. Who could turn a bunch of ants in such a short time into an elephant? Zhua Fan! Taking out the paper from his sleeve, the Emperor sighed. Take a look. When the world quaked, Parrish sent these words. The two read it, and after a pensive silence, they said to the Emperor, May we ask what is your Majesty's view of these words? I didn't understand at first, but listening to what transpired in Dragon Cloud City, I can guess now. The Emperor stroked his beard. The Earth Dragon points at Huangpu Qintian, representing the Regent Estate. While the Celestial Dragon ought to be Zhua Fan descending from the heavens. When the two dragons collide, the land and rivers shall each call their king. This is the most worrisome part. The world will fall into chaos, with kings appearing and Tianyu sundering. The two generals paled. If these words were true, the empire was at an impasse. Your Majesty, I may be close to the Luo clan, but for Tianyu's safety, allow me to march on Wengei's city. Dugu Zhantian cupped his hands. The Emperor waved his proposal. No, know yourself and your enemy, and you shall be ever victorious. The intelligence of the Luo clan is thin. To the point that we didn't even know of Li Jingtian. It's obvious that Zhua Fan is hiding deep secrets. And even if we do march on them, we can't do it without a good reason. It will only give others the chance to take advantage of the chaos. Then what shall we do, Your Majesty? Dugu Zhantian cupped his hands. The Emperor grumbled about something, then spoke with a dark face. As per our promise, inform that all of the Luo clan has to come to the imperial capital for its reward, to receive their title as the 8 noble house. Call upon the clans of the land and the 7 houses to bear witness to this ceremony. Fang Qiubai's eyes lit up, catching the Emperor's drift. He nodded. Your Majesty is wise. With so many experts gathered in the imperial capital, we won't have to lift a finger, as they will tear each other apart out of hatred and vengeance. Any misfortune that befalls the Luo clan now, even if by Regent Estate's insidious hand, would have nothing coming back to us. We will even see the Luo clan's true power come to light. That's 2 birds with 1 stone. No, it may very well be possible that the Regent Estate has long been powerless to deal with the Luo clan. I only wish to see the Luo clan's power to its full extent, ha ha ha. With a sinister laughter, the Emperor's eyes shone. 3 months later, a red light shot before Blackwind Mountain. A 7-year-old kid appeared before the mountain, looking on with a sigh. This must be Dad's home. And it even has 5th grade arrays. Not bad at all. Dad, I'm here. Open up or I'll bash my way in. The kid roared. The very next second, fog parted and Yen Fu walked out from within. Seeing the shouting kid, he was lost. Kid, where did you come from? Who told you to come here? Don't you know this is the Luo clan, the one even the 7 houses fear? I'll give you a thrashing if you keep shouting. TCH, a mere lackey is so cocky? The Luo clan's fame must be quite something. Not beneath those houses at least. The kid grinned, ignoring Yen Fu and turning to the distant Blackwind Mountain peak as he assessed. Not bad. Dad picked the perfect place with ample spiritual energy. Yen Fu's face twitched and he snapped. Brat, you dare call me a lackey? Do you know who I am, who my master is? TCH, showing off and talking about your backing proves loud and clear that you are, in fact, but a lackey. Ugh. Yen Fu faltered, stunned speechless at the kid's flawless logic. He had gotten used to scaring others with his master's name. Even though for the last few years he was down on his luck, but after seeing his master, he was in high spirits, back to his same old habits, but getting mocked by a kid left a bad taste in his mouth. Even more so when the kid made perfect sense. Everywhere he went he'd show off his backing, like a true lackey. As if he was afraid of getting a thrashing. Yen Fu's side in the end. Out with it, brat, what do you want? I've come for someone. Who? My dad, Shuafan. The kid stuck out his chin. Chapter 347 Monstrous Father and Son Duo. Chapter 347 Monstrous Father and Son Duo. Elite Coder. What? Gasping, Yen Fu stammered. Who did you say you were here for again? Shuafan. And no, I mean, is Steward Zhui your? Yen Fu gulped. The kid raised an eyebrow and spoke genially. My dad, why? What, Steward Zhui is your dad? Only now did the words register in Yen Fu's grinding mind. He gasped with bulging eyes. Steward Zhui has a child? Why didn't he say anything? The kid put on his thinking cap. He probably didn't have the time. Since the two of us only recently met. An out-of-wedlock child. Yen Fu's heart was pumping at full throttle as a cryptic smile formed on his face, and he rubbed the kid's head. Little guy, wait here while I get your dad. The kid flicked Yen Fu's hand off. Listen, bud, I hate it when people touch my head. If not for being one of Dad's men, I'd pummel you into the ground and leave you to the wolves. Shivering, words left Yen Fu. The kid was so tiny yet packed a mean attitude, threatening him left and right. Just like Steward Zhui. He now somewhat believed that the two were related. They were just too similar. Not to mention the kid sure was mighty. His hand was still stinging SSS. Gasping, Yen Fu cradled his inflamed hand and darted inside to report, This is breaking news. Shuafan's love child is at the door. In a jiffy, a stream of people rushed down the mountain, with Luo Yunchang in lead. The report had her thunderstruck, freezing on the spot. She should have known Shuafan had other girls out there besides Chu Qingqing and Ning'er. With a child no less. That was the last straw. You damn player. Once I get to the bottom of this, you're dead. Raging like a volcano, Luo Yuchang stormed down the mountain along with Shui Qingjian, Qiu Yehai, Captain Pang and many more joining the bustle. They were looking forward to meet their steward's son. With such an attitude, his child ought not to be as fiendish as his dad, no? But when they arrived, the kid looked so cute and bright, everyone just wanted to hug him. Oh, I didn't think the steward's son would be so adorable. His mother must be gorgeous. Shui Qingjian's maternal instinct kicked in high gear. Luo Yunchang's mood only sank, mirthless. But seeing the kid, she squeezed a smile as she asked, Little guy, is your dad really our Steward Shuafan? Mind telling me your name? Are you calling me a liar? You rude bint, I've come to see my dad. You all better not stand in my way and take me to him, now. The kid snapped. Luo Yunchang's face twitched. That was a first, for a kid to call her a bint. The others were having a blast and broke out in laughter. Yen Song sized the kid and said, The child may be young, but quite spirited. His tone is just like Steward Zhui's, as brash and egotistical. We no longer have to fear the Luo clan's decline. We even have the next steward, ha ha ha. Yen Song laughed, rubbing the kid's hair, but the kid's brows shivered and his face looked positively dark. Elder Yen is right. I find the kid clever, and with Steward Zhui's teachings, we will have endless generations of stronger and stronger geniuses. Come, call me Uncle Pang. Captain Pang laughed, getting his turn to ruffle the kid's head, who only glowered, but the crowd hardly noticed or cared. A child was getting teased by adults. What could he do other than bear it? And so, after the second came the third, and on it went. Everyone rubbed his head and teased him. But the child's only reaction was an increasingly darker face. The last straw was when Qiu Yehai came over laughing. But before he could speak, the kid flung his hand off and snapped. I told you not to touch my head. Take me to see my father! Oh my, he's pouting, ha ha ha, the spitting image of Steward Zhui. Qiu Yehai laughed, further aggravating the kid by rubbing his head again. You twerp, you are so young yet have such fire in you, just like your old man. A shame you don't have his strength. Look, I'm touching your head. What are you gonna do about it? I can't mess with your dad, so why don't I mess with you? Ha ha ha. Qiu Yihai toyed with him until the kid's face was practically throbbing with rage. Shui Qingjian poured more oil. Geezer, stop poking him. He is only a child. Worry about when his dad finds out that we teased his son, and he'll come toy with us. Ha ha ha, what's there to fear? Steward Zhua is in seclusion to nurse his wounds. He won't be coming out soon. A child's memory is like a fish anyway, gone the next day. He won't remember, right, twerp? Qiu Yihai smirked. The kid snorted. Quite right. I don't have a good memory. Because anybody that pisses me off, I'll make sure to deal with them on the spot. With a bang, the kid's tiny hand clamped on Qiu Yihai's wrist like a vice. Qiu Yihai felt his wrist about to break and paled. Nothing he did could get him out of the hold. Only now did he realize that the kid was more than he seemed, way more. While others were still blissfully oblivious, the kid's eyes left him cold and shivering. I don't need Dad for help. I'll let you have a taste myself. The kid flung Qiu Yihai, under the bug-eyed crowd, smack into the ground. Boom! Qiu Yihai cracked the earth, the gap extending farther and farther. In a blink, it crossed a whole mile and passed into Wingay's city. Rumble. No one could believe their eyes as to how Wingay's city was suddenly sporting a bottomless gap. Qiu Yihai coughed blood, filled with shock. What kind of monster is he? How does he have so much power to wound an 8th-layer Radiant Stage expert just like that? He had never imagined the kid would be so freakish. The rest went slack-jawed. With eyes wide as saucers, this 7-year-old scamp had the power to kill a Radiant Stage expert in one blow. What the hell? The people gulped from shock. That's Shuafan's kid all right. Neither of them is normal, but monsters. With the son even more outrageous than the father. Luo Yunchang forgot about her jealousy then and there. She stared at the previously adorable kid with raw fear. Letting go of Qiu Yihai, the kid tended to his hair and mocked. Geezer, know what's good for you. If not for you being under my dad, I'd have snapped your twig of a body in two. Humph, try touching me again and see where that gets you. Qiu Yihai felt like crying. He, a Radiant Stage expert and an elder, was manhandled like a child, by a child. The others looked startled and their hands shivered. Who among them hadn't touched the kid's head? It was just Elder Qiu's rotten luck to do it last. If it were them, their entire skeleton would be dust by now. The crowd looked at the kid with even more fear, yet no less amazement. Shuafan was a monster, but that didn't guarantee his son would be one too. At least not a freak of nature like this one. Holy hell! A 7-year-old kid can shoot down a Radiant Stage expert in one blow. How are the rest of us supposed to survive? Tears began to well in their hearts. Enough wasting time. Take me to my father. The kid spoke with pride after that little display. This time, the people were amiable enough to nod, and led the way. Shivering, the kid held his head high, strutting before them as he walked into the Luo clan's manor. Just then, 5 figures appeared. Li Jingtian and the 4 scheming demons. Seeing Luo Yuchang and the rest, Li Jingtian asked, "What's wrong?" What was all the commotion outside? The faces of everyone sank as they pointed at the kid. Li Jingtian merely looked at him and became a blundering, shivering mess. "I invincible scamp Gu Santong. What in God's name are you doing here?" Chapter 348 I want to use the Qilin leg. Chapter 348 I want to use the Qilin leg. Elite Coder. It's that little monster, he just won't leave us alone. The 4 scheming demons hugged their heads and rolled on the ground in fear, and everyone went speechless. This was a first for all, seeing Mad Dipper frantic and the 4 fearless pygmies scurrying around like headless chickens. Then again, the power this kid showed was almost out of this world. Elderly, you know this child?" Luo Yunchang asked with a trembling lip. Li Jingtian looked oddly at her. "See, child? Young miss, he may be a child to you, but to us, he is the oldest monster. Just 300 years ago, he threw Tianyu into chaos and defeated everyone. And now he is the strongest divine dragon of the imperial family, invincible scamp Gu Santong. We won't even be able to scratch him with all of us working together." What a shocker! All eyes on Gu Santong were now full of fear. Who could have seen that coming? Certainly not them. That a sweet, sweet child could be such an abomination. Chiu Yanhai was the most bitter. Glancing at the adorable Gu Santong, he felt like crying. If he had known the kid was a centuries-old freak, he wouldn't even get near him. Everyone was now trying to make sense of what this force of nature was doing coming to the Luo clan. But isn't he Zhuofan's son? How can he be 300 years old? Luo Yunchang was skeptical. Li Jingtian looked puzzled as well. Who told you that? He did. And the crowd had spoken, pointing at Gu Santong. Now it is Li Jingtian's turn to be floored. He looked at Gu Santong's genial face, filled with doubt. All the renowned experts cared about the world's view of them, and Gu Santong was no different. What possible reason would this almighty expert have to lower himself and say he was some guy's son? The non-committal Gu Santong had clearly admitted it to be the truth, leaving Li Jingtian even more confused. Where's Dad? Take me to him. Gu Santong said. Li Jingtian hesitated but nodded in the end. Wait a moment while I inform him. It wasn't long before he was back, but this time with an even odder look for Gu Santong. Steward Zhua asked everyone and the child to come inside. Those words were enough for everyone to see that Zhuofan was indeed Gu Santong's dad. There would be no point for elderly to call him child otherwise, yet nobody had a clue about how worldly expert, Tianyu's strongest divine dragon, ended up as his son. One thing was certain though, they saw Zhuofan's handiwork in a whole new light. Only he could make this possible. Walking in a single file, they all marched into the Luo clan's main hall. Zhuofan was already seated with a bright smile. Young Sanzi, it's been ages. Dad! Gu Santong skipped cheerfully in Zhuofan's arms. He didn't look like a 300-year-old monster to anyone, just a sweet child, but the instant he saw Zhuofan's empty right sleeve, his eyes snapped. Dad, your right hand? Who did this to you? I'll kill them all. No need, I've already handled it. Zhuofan shook his head. With Tianyu's factions in a delicate balance, he didn't want Gu Santong to be the spark that blew everything sky high and affected his plan. And what are you doing here? It can't be that you're here just to see little old me. Zhuofan switched topics with a smile. Gu Santong nodded. I came to give the Luo clan a decree. For the Luo clan's exemplary performance in esoteric debate, 3 months from now, the Emperor will bestow upon it the title of 8th noble house in the imperial capital, in front of the clans of Tianyu. All heads of the clans and houses will be there to celebrate. What? Everyone was stunned. Who would have thought the imperial family would hold up their word so fast? But it also worried them. Zhuofan had the dragon vein soul, and the Emperor's attitude would definitely change towards them. Those stingy creeps only know to give me first and second-grade ingredients. Ever since I ate Dad's high-grade ingredients, those low ones seem stale. Ha ha ha, then why don't you stay here for a little while and live it up like a young master? Laughing, Zhuofan presented an ingredient rich in spiritual energy. Gu Santong perked up on the spot. 8th-grade ingredient. F for me? Of course. What's mine is yours. Zhuofan pushed the ingredient to a cheerful Gu Santong at the side. Yen Song's heart was bleeding. That's an 8th-grade ingredient. With the secret alchemy art Zhuofan had taught him, he might even be able to refine a 9th-grade pill with that ingredient. Giving it away just like that is such a waste. But the pain had only just begun. Zhuofan waved Yen Song over. Elder Yen, my son will be staying with us for a few days. He just loves ingredients. For every meal, you have to give him at least one 6th-grade ingredient. Got it? Face twitching, alchemist Yen Song's poor heart was at its limit, but since Zhuofan had commanded it, he could only suck it up and nod. Gu Santong was ecstatic, hugging his neck and kissing him. You're the best dad in the whole world. All of this happened before a mute audience. Where did the fiendish monster go? In front of Zhuofan, he was nothing but a cute 7-year-old. All right. Zhuofan waved, telling Gu Santong to get down as his face turned serious. Young Sanzi, there's something I must talk to you about. Perhaps you won't agree, but I must ask. Gu Santong cocked his head. Zhuofan sighed and said, Young Sanzi, I want to use the Qilin leg. What? Gu Santong cried. I know, it is very dear to you, and I never intended to do this either. But now I have no choice. His eyes trailed to his empty right sleeve as he continued. If you don't agree, I'll have no choice but to force you to take it from me or make you agree and have you resent me forever. Raising his arm, his thunder ring flashed as he looked Gu Santong straight in the eye. He knew how important the Qilin leg was to Gu Santong. It was his elder's remains that he treasured greatly. If he had just used it without even telling Gu Santong, there would always be a wall between them. It might even break off their relationship. Gu Santong's first godfather was a scholar, who taught him to repay gratitude in kind. Before he made this request, Zhuofan had first dumped a pile of ingredients in this kid's lap, earning a few brownie points coupled with the statement, "What's mine is yours." Sharing the profits, forcing a great battle to take place in Gu Santong's heart. Zhuofan treated him like his kin, but to avoid any arguments in the future, he still came out clean to make Gu Santong give him the Qilin leg willingly. Zhuofan held his breath as he watched him. Gu Santong was silent for a long time before nodding. If it were anyone else, I'd definitely refuse. But like Dad just said, what's mine is yours. Ha ha ha, oh son. Zhuofan laughed, hugging him tighter and kissing him twice until Gu Santong giggled. The people in the hall sighed. Steward Zhuo was a true miracle worker to get so close with that little monster. They were no different from true father and son, not to mention this monstrous duo would one day take the empire by the storm with no one to stop them. Everyone could practically see the two go on a rampage and the Luo clan entering into an era of prosperity at the top. It was the right choice to come over to the Luo clan's side. Was the unanimous sentiment. Only Luo Yunchan didn't care much for interests. Feeling her heart swell at the touching reunion, Zhuofan is no longer lonely. Zhuofan and Gu Santong chatted for a while, and then Zhuofan took him to have his fill of ingredients. Especially high-grade ones. These were all taken from that 6th-grade spiritual beast's cave back in Beast King Mountain. Their amount was neither plenty nor few to start with. Yen Song was the alchemy house elder, and was ecstatic at seeing them the first time, but now he had to watch them get stuffed down Gu Santong's gullet. In no time at all, almost none were left, much to the misery of the old man. Not that Zhuofan cared. As long as he could use the Qilin leg while Gu Santong agreed, he took it as a bargain. As for the ingredients, they were merely worldly possessions, nothing compared to the Qilin leg and the ongoing relationship he had with Gu Santong. 2 weeks later, Gu Santong's time was up and he had to leave, despite his reluctance. But before he left, Zhuofan gave him a pile of ingredients as snacks, making the separation somewhat bearable. When Gu Santong was gone, Luo Yuchang and the rest were preparing to leave as well, for the imperial capital. But Zhuofan wasn't coming with them. He was almost completely healed, and what was left was to deal with his severed right arm. Then he would be reborn, with newfound power coursing through his veins 10s of times greater than before. Chapter 349 Qilin Arm. Chapter 349 Qilin Arm. Elite Coder. Elderly, the safety of young Miss will be your responsibility on your way to the imperial capital. Myself and the other elders will meet you later. At the foot of Blackwind Mountain, Zhuofan patted Li Jingtian's shoulder. Li Jingtian nodded. Zhuofan let out a relaxed chuckle and left a few instructions for the rest before sending them off. He was letting Li Jingtian go on this trip to the imperial capital out of fear that the other houses might harbor evil plans in that regard. The tough and loyal Li Jingtian was the best choice when they were gone from his sight. Zhuofan took Shui Qingjian, Yen Song and the 4 scheming demons back to Blackwind Mountain. They soon arrived before the familiar misty forest. Zhuofan said, "I will enter seclusion for a few days and you must protect me. No one is allowed entry into Blackwind Mountain's surroundings. Is that clear? Crystal." They all cupped their hands. Zhuofan relaxed and vanished among the fog. The rest assumed their role and guarded Blackwind Mountain from all directions. After arriving at a wide clearing, Zhuofan found it adequate and began to carve a familiar body refining array. The only difference was that this array was a great deal larger when finished. Zhuofan's hand flashed, and he inserted 10s of thousands of spirit stones into the array core with a wave. With a boom, A pillar suddenly shot for the clouds. This was the same Qilin leg he obtained from the Lightning Canyon, the one he was planning to make his new right arm from, but the effort to convert a sacred beast's leg into a human's arm was far too difficult. The scale of the Qilin leg alone posed a huge problem. Luckily, he had come prepared. With the shaping spring he got from Beast King Mountain, this problem was solved by itself. Shaping Spring's mystical ability would turn the Qilin leg into a human's arm and safely replace his lost limb. He had had this idea since the first time he heard of Shaping Spring. But because of the dangers involved, he had vetoed it. Yet the fight with Huang Puqing Tian had taught him to steel himself and throw away any hesitation. It's just a hand, how hard can it be? Grinning, Zhuofan sighed. When the going gets tough, the tough gets going. Zhuofan flew atop the Qilin leg and poured the shaping spring all over it. He then slowly floated back down, stepped out of the array and made a hand sign. A tremendous boom echoed and the array exploded with light. Even the thick fog found it hard to conceal it. The elders outside were stunned, in the dark about Zhuofan's plan. Then the Qilin leg released a bloody glow echoing the array's own light. It trembled and crackled with lightning. At the same time, the white liquid on its surface slowly seeped and it wasn't long before all of it was absorbed. Squinting, Zhuofan capitalized on the timing and changed his hand sign. Heaven and earth's sacred power shifts yin and yang, the Qilin leg will turn into an arm. All shall be fused as one and the sacred arm will break the heavens. It started off with a buzz. The array released a ripple from its center, and the Qilin leg never stopped shaking. It reached the magnitude of an earthquake as even the surrounding mountains started rumbling, including Blackwind Mountain. Not even the 4th grade arrays could take the strain when rocks fell everywhere. Qiu Yehai, Shui Qingjian, and the rest of the elder contingency were overwhelmed. What is Steward doing? Is he going to wreck his own clan's foundation? The 4 scheming demons wailed as they panicked all over the place. The sky is falling. Only Zhuofan was stirred, seeing the Qilin leg shrink by half in a blink. The body refining array from the 9 Serenity's secret records was truly something to be able to refine even a sacred beast. The next part was crucial, fusing the sacred arm. Success would be achieved only when the Qilin leg would calmly rest below his right shoulder. Or all of this effort would go to waste. I hope there won't be a rejection. This is, after all, the sacred leg from the mighty Qilin. Squinting, Zhuofan took a deep breath and focused on the shrinking red pillar. Once it was the size of an arm, he shouted and jumped inside the array. A wail of agony similar to the one in the Allbeast mountain range echoed. Zhuofan felt his body disintegrate under the onslaught of the thunderstorm within the array. What made it worse was that this pain was 100 times more excruciating than last time. Last time the array's size was much smaller, and he had only used diamond sand and a 6th-level spiritual beast's wings. But this time, he thirsted to make the mighty Qilin's leg his arm, weighing the price and the benefits of having it rest below his shoulder. He found it more than worth it, but not for the life of him did Zhuofan expect to endure such agony. Watching his body chipping away, his flesh splashing onto the array, Zhuofan's eyes widened with pain, ready to explode. This pain went beyond the conceivable realm. The last refining was but a bug bite by comparison, but Zhuofan held fast. The last time he had done it for Ning'er, while this time he was doing it for everyone, so that Ning'er misfortune would never repeat itself. All howling at the sky, the elders outside freaked out. They watched the misty forest with concern. Steward Zhua, just what cultivation method are you practicing to make even a tenacious demon like you scream at the top of his lungs? In the array, Zhuofan's flesh floated about, and even his organs were gone. All that was left was his skeleton, and his trembling eyes. Zhuofan would have been long dead by now in these circumstances. But within the array, his life force didn't scatter. The Qilin leg released a bloody glow, and Zhuofan's pieces of flesh flew around it, and bathed in the red glow before shooting for his body and reforging it. With a long sigh, Zhuofan's heart eased. It's finally combining. This meant that the refining was nearing its end, bringing him one step closer to success. His thinking was quite logical. When the body was reformed, the refining would end, although he didn't take into account the fact that the target of his refining was a sacred beast. Whoosh! The flying flesh reformed on Zhuofan's skeleton and released a pale red glow, with only the right arm missing from its place, and then the Qilin leg floated over, slowly approaching his shoulder to fuse. He didn't get to rejoice though, as a heaven-shaking howl announced the trembling of the Qilin leg. A red glow flashed from the leg and pierced his brain. Zhuofan blanked out for a second and felt his head splitting, about to explode. A bellow like that of a savage beast tore through the deepest corners of his mind and knocked him out. I failed. Sighing in his heart, this was his last thought before he passed out cold. A blood-red Qilin was roaring in his soul, wanting to tear the place apart. A mere human dares to covet my sacred body. You are judged unworthy. Roar! While the Qilin was having a literal blast in the depths of his soul, a dragon roar came from within Zhuofan's body. The dragon-veined soul charged at the Qilin. Zhuofan was now its master, and its duty was to protect him. It was aware that it was no match for the Qilin, but it was going to try and protect Zhuofan with its life. The Qilin only had disdain for the dragon's soul. Humph! If you were a celestial dragon, I would have graced you with a strike. But a tiny earth dragon dares to bar my path? The Qilin lifted its leg and stomped on the dragon's soul. Bam! The dragon's soul was kicked out of Zhuofan's soul and back into his dantian with the face of a kicked puppy. Master, I did my best, but it just wasn't enough. Ha ha ha, a snail dares contend with me? Die! The Qilin cackled and raved at the surrounding darkness. Ha ha ha, this human brat has some nerve. See how I'll tear your soul to smithereens. It didn't get the chance though, as a sharp cry announced the pain in his back. A huge bird made of azure flame clawed at the tough Qilin's back. Qilin looked back in shock. You! Yes, old partner, I've chosen this kid, and one day he will return our help manyfold. You have long since died, and removing this grief from your soul will be for the best. The huge azure fire bird exploded into flames and swallowed the Qilin. With a tightening of its claws, the Qilin vanished in a red glow. Then, the huge azure fire bird vanished as well. Only then did Zhuofan's ever-throbbing right arm, the Qilin leg, finally became still as it began to fuse with his body. Chapter 350 Comprehensive Advancement. Chapter 350 Comprehensive Advancement. I wasn't devoured? After a long time, Zhuofan opened his eyes and saw the clear blue sky. When the Qilin leg connected to his shoulder, he felt a terrible resentment tearing at his soul. But what had him shocked was that a mere Qilin leg, dead for God knows how long, was still bearing such strong resentment. As it came from a sacred beast, the magnitude was amplified. It had instantly cut off his consciousness before he could even cry for help. The last thought that went through his mind was a lament for having failed at all. The sacred beast's resentment pierced his soul, yet it didn't get destroyed. How am I still alive? Did the Qilin resentment turn noble and let me off? Even he found that impossible. Resentment was a mass of rage. How could it develop a conscience? Zhuofan just couldn't make heads or tails of it. He shook his head in the end, crawling to his feet. Then he realized he had done that with his right arm. He looked at his right hand in shock, and a glowing red arm entered his eyes. The refining succeeded. He had turned the Qilin leg into a sky-piercing Qilin arm. Overjoyed, Zhuofan took in all the details of his new arm, yet it wasn't one bit different from his other arm. But when he moved his fingers, he could feel the space itself vibrate. The power behind his right arm was just as freaky as Gu Santong's. Zhuofan was confident that no one in Tianyu could match this arm of his. He wouldn't balk even against Gu Santong's attacks. Zhuofan was ecstatic and jumped in glee. But he could only jump to 1,000 feet of height above the mist. Zhuofan had forgotten that he had lost his wings and couldn't fly as a bone-tempering expert. So why was he still hovering here? I have advanced? Zhuofan checked his cultivation in a rush. Sure enough, the refining had jumped his cultivation into the third layer of profound heaven stage. Not to mention the dragon soul's power within him had already fused with him and brought his body to a new level through the dragon power tempering, and with the dragon soul within him, the power in his body shot head through the roof. Not even Huang Puqingtian could match him now, and that wasn't even half of it. He found with great delight that Blood Infant had advanced as well. It had broken the shackles and advanced into the profound heaven stage. The profound heaven stage, Blood Infant's speed had reached an unprecedented level. Not even a discerning field could catch up to it squinting. Juefan flexed his mind whoosh. A red glow flew out of him, took a tour of Blackwind Mountain surroundings for 100 miles and was back inside in the blink of an eye at the core of Blackwind Mountain, watching over the arrays. Shui Qingjian and Qiu Yanhai were cultivating with closed eyes when they felt a chill pass through them. Old hag, did you feel that? Qiu Yanhai's eyes trembled. Shui Qingjian nodded and gulped. As if something passed by. But why couldn't I sense it? It's all based on my instinct. You too? Gasping, Qiu Yanhai's aged face shuddered. Then it mustn't have been just a coincidence. I felt the same. But why? Is there anything in this world that can fly past our divine sense without getting detected? If not for the instincts we honed through battles for a century, we wouldn't have felt the danger either. Yeah, just what was that? If it was a human, how dreadful would he be? We could never hope to reach him. Qiu Yanhai sighed, scratching his head. I only hope he has no ill will towards the Luo clan. In another area, the 4 scheming demons were on duty, to fend off anyone going into the misty forest where Juefan lay. But were these pygmies that bored? It didn't take 15 minutes before they were back to squabbling and fighting. And they had kept at it all this time. Whoosh! When the red glow flashed by, the 4 pygmies stopped mid-swing. Bro, did something pass by just now? Sly Demon frowned. Violent Demon's Punch faltered, his eyes roaming about. No way. What could possibly pass us 4 heroic demons without so much as a sound? Such a thing doesn't exist in this world. Yeah, there's absolutely no way. Wimp Demon shook his head. The other 2 paused for a second before doing the same. That settles it. Now, where were we? Violent Demon swung his hand with a grin. Sly Demon said, you were about to punch my face. Bam! And that was what Violent Demon did, smacking Sly Demon's nose. Ha ha ha, now I remember. I really wanted to bash your face in. Sly Demon returned blows, of course, right at Violent Demon's head. Thus, the 4 resumed their ever-bustling bonding. But just then, Juefan's dignified voice came from above Blackwind Mountain. Elders, come to the misty forest. Steward Zhua was out. Shui Qingjian and Qiu Yanhai rushed post-haste. Yen Song came out of the alchemy house as well. Flying to the forest, the 4 scheming demons stopped there, sharing tough love, and gathered at misty forest soon. All of the Luo clan's elders were watching the forest. Juefan walked out of the bloody fog and nodded. The elders saw that Juefan didn't only recover his arm but had also reached the 3rd layer of Profound Heaven stage, leaping 4 layers in just 1 month. His speed was faster than a rocket. Monster! The word was on everyone's lips. How could Huangpu Qingtian possibly compare? He was just a novice. Juefan smiled. How long was I away? A month. Yen Song bowed, nodding pleasantly. Juefan said, Perfect, I just let my demonic creature check your situation. You've done well this month. What, it was you just now? Shui Qingjian cried out. What is that demonic creature that moves so fast? Ha ha ha, I have many more tricks up my sleeve. You will get to see them in time. Juefan replied with a vague smile, which only made the others more baffled. Just how many tricks is Steward Juefan hiding to catch everyone off guard? Truly frightening. Even though they were Radiant stage experts, they were like kittens in front of a tiger when Juefan was around. From what I saw, that was a quick reaction. Elder Qiu and Elder Shui, you're quite sharp. Elder Yen is still in Profound Heaven stage, so it's fine, and he is quite dedicated to alchemy too. Only you 4, what the hell is wrong, you shits? Juefan's smile turned demonic as he glared. I told you to defend this place, yet all you do is squabble. Talk, how should I punish your negligence of duty? Shuddering, the 4 put on hurt looks in sync. Steward Zhua, anything but the bloodworms. Any other punishment is fine. How about you beat us up? Sly Demon pleaded, raising an eyebrow. Juefan laughed. You must be thinking I can't hurt you to ask for that, right? Fine, we'll do it your way. I'll beat you silly. The 4 were ecstatic with Juefan's tiny cultivation in comparison to theirs. In the 6th layer of Profound Heaven stage, he couldn't even make it sting. As long as the bloodworms were out of the picture, even standing there and taking Juafan's hits, they figured Juafan's fist would be the one hurting in the end. The four showed crafty smiles. Juafan didn't mind, merely eyeing them coldly as he spread his arms. Take your pick, left or right? Ha ha ha, whichever you wish. Violent Demon laughed nonchalantly with a snicker. Juafan stretched out his left arm and said, Left it is, so I won't beat you to death and waste all the effort dumped into you the past 5 years. Transformation. Juafan roared in his mind.